Welcome everyone, and today's session is on an overview of Canvas. And I'm trying to make no assumptions here this morning about prior knowledge of LMSs in general or Canvas in particular. We'll start with how to get in, what you can do with Canvas, and move through. Obviously, I can't cover every feature of Canvas in detail in 2 hours, but I will do my very best to hit all the high spots. So we'll be moving pretty quickly, but remember this recording will be available later for you to review if there's something that you want another look at or that you just didn't get the first time, which is natural. I'm Dave Gibberson, of course. I'm the retired senior instructional designer at Online Learning Pathways. I retired about 3 years ago, but come back to help out with these training sessions from northern Idaho, as you can see behind me there. I'm just a retired senior citizen now living in northern Idaho. But it's wonderful to see you all this morning. I see a lot of familiar faces and some new ones, so that's great. But this is pitched at folks who have perhaps never used Canvas before. So I'll stay at that level throughout, but then when we get to the end, I'll answer questions about Canvas or anything else for that matter at any level that I can. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll be sharing my screen much of the day. So let me go ahead and start that and get this lot out of the way so you can see our outline for today. Just very quickly, the first thing you learn about a new system is how to get help. So that's what we'll talk about first. Then we'll look at the basic interface and navigation in Canvas, how to get around, where the buttons and levers are, and how to find them. Then we'll talk about getting started adding your content to Canvas. In other words, developing your Canvas course and putting information into it for your students. We'll also talk a little bit about assessments in Canvas, communication, and then some of the basic tools in the Canvas course menu. So again, we're just going to hit the high spots and hopefully get you to the point where you know what questions to ask. And perhaps this will help you as you go through if you're getting ready to run through the online faculty certification program training course on Canvas, that this will give you some background and some terminology and some basic familiarity with the system. Let's go to Canvas and let me log out, and we'll start from how do you get to Canvas at the San Diego Community College District. Canvas is, of course, a website. It's something you access through a web browser. Any web browser basically will do, and it works pretty well with all of them, though Chrome is generally a good choice, is what I'm using here. And the URL, the web address for Canvas, is what you see in the upper left here. And I don't think it'll let me blow that up. No, it doesn't. But Canvas can be found at SDCCD, San Diego Community College District, .instructure, which is a made-up word. It's the name of the company that builds Canvas.com, SDCCD.instructure.com. And let me put that in the chat tool, because if you can't get to it, it's not going to do you any good. That's the so-called URL, or Uniform Resource Locator, for Canvas. And that's in the chat tool. If you click on the chat link in the menu at the bottom of your screen, you should see this, and you should see that URL. You can save this chat tool if you like, the chat log, the messages in the chat, by going to the More menu in the lower right here, the 3 little dots, and selecting Save Chat. Then it'll show you this Show in Folder link. You can click on that, and that will open up either your File Explorer or your Finder on the Mac, and it'll show you where that's stored on your local hard drive. It's stored in a folder called Zoom under your default Documents folder, and in a subfolder which is dated and timed for today's session. 7/17/2020, and we started at 9:53 this morning. So that's how you can find it. And the chat log will be in the file named meeting saved chat.txt. You just double click that and the chat log will come up. Of course, as new messages are added, you can save the chat log again and again and keep updating it. It can only save what's in the chat tool at the time you save it. So that's how you get to Canvas at the district. And the same system serves all 3 colleges and all of the continuing education sites. We have one Canvas system at the district for everyone. So that URL is good for everyone. To log into Canvas, everyone is, all faculty with teaching contracts have accounts on Canvas. They're created automatically. You don't have to request them. And it should be sitting there waiting for you. If you have any trouble with that, let me know. But you should have an account already. And this is true for your students as well. Any fully matriculated student who is registered for at least one course at the district has an account on the system, and they log in the same way you do. The user ID is your 10-digit PeopleSoft employee ID. For the students, it's their 10-digit student ID, same thing. Mine's a little different because I was like the first person put into the system when we started up. Then the password is also set automatically. Your password initially is your 8-digit birth date. Month, day, year. And that information is provided as a reminder here at the bottom of the login page. This is how you log in. Both faculty and students log in the same way. If you have problems, the 24/7 support number for students and faculty is listed down there as well. So you've got help right on the login page. Once you enter your login ID and your password, of course, you just click the login button and up comes your Canvas dashboard. This is everybody's entry page in the Canvas system. This shows a series of colored rectangles, each one of which represents a course container, a course shell, we call it, into which you can put content to share with your students. The containers, the shells for your fall courses should be there right now. They should have appeared today. If not, give it till tomorrow morning, then let us know, or call that support number. There's always a possibility that something's been messed up in PeopleSoft and the shell didn't appear, but that happens very rarely. You should see shells, these colored rectangles, for each of your fall courses at this point. Even if they're late start courses, they should be here. If not, let us know. We don't really recommend that you develop your course in your live shell. That is, build the course and put in your content and your assessments and things like that, because things can happen in PeopleSoft that can cause that shell to disappear and reappear without your content between now and the 3rd week in August. So we recommend that you use what we term development or master shells to develop your courses in, as I'm going to show you today. You can request those at that support hotline number that I'll show you again here in a minute. And those development shells are not automatically made. You have to request them, but it's just a phone call. You say, I'd like a development shell for this course, and one for that course, and one for that course. And then you develop your course in that development shell, and then copy the contents later on when it's safe to do so, when PeopleSoft is not likely to reach out and mess it up. You can easily copy your content from your development shell into your live shell, and I'll show you how to do that today. It's very simple and very quick for you. So that's your dashboard. Before we go in, and to go into one of these shells, all we have to do is click on the colored rectangle, also called a tile for some reason. But we just click on that rectangle and you go into the course. But before we do that, let's look at something in the Canvas interface that you're going to need. Over here on the left, this gray vertical bar is called your Canvas Global Access menu, or sometimes the Canvas System menu. These are tools and information that are not associated with any single course, but rather with Canvas as a whole and with your account as a whole. And I just want to go through them really quickly and show you what they represent. I don't have time to cover them in detail, and we have individual Canvas training sessions that focus on some of this, but just so you know where to look for something. First off, don't worry about the district logo. That'll just take you back to the Canvas homepage. The first link there is your account link. It probably just has a little silhouette in there right now. Or it may be, you may have already uploaded a picture, a profile picture. If you click on that link, a little panel slides out, and this is your account management window. You can do things in here like go to your profile and add a profile picture just by clicking on the pencil icon, select upload a picture, choose a picture off your hard drive, wherever you might have some digital pictures stored. Let's see if I've got something better than Alfred there to put in there. Your students really appreciate it if you put a profile image in. They want to know what you look like, and in an online course, they may never see you. Let's see. Obviously, I've got a few too many pictures in here. Where did my picture? Oh, here we go. That'll work. Then you get a little crop circle that you can move around so the image is more or less centered. You can make it bigger or smaller by grabbing the handles at the side and then saving that. And that will upload your profile image automatically. And it will appear here in a second. Come on. Yoo-hoo, Canvas. And it's thinking about it. Well, not quite sure why that didn't work.
You had to go to the little, you had to log out. You had to.
No, I shouldn't have to log out. It should just happen. Let's try that one. There we go. That's what should happen. And it changes immediately. The other link you might use here is the settings link. This allows you to check, for instance, your email address that's associated with your account to make sure it's correct up here. You can add other email addresses that you can also use with Canvas if you like. You can also set up text messaging alerts if you like. That's about all you're likely to do here, except change your password. This is where you change your password. Your birth date is not a secure password, to say the least. So you can go on the settings screen to edit settings. and there's a link that causes a link or a box to appear, a checkbox, to change your password. You just check that box, and you're asked to enter your birth date, and then your new password twice, and then update settings, and that will change your password. And that's a good idea because, as I say, that's not a secure password. That's probably all we need to worry about in here right now. You won't see an admin link if I go back to the menu over here. But to get back to your dashboard, you can always click here. That just takes you back to where you entered the system. After you've been using Canvas for a while, not all of your courses will appear on the dashboard. As they age, some of them will automatically age off the dashboard. But you can always see all of the courses that you've ever been enrolled in on Canvas by going to the link right underneath the dashboard, which is the courses link. And all of the courses that you've ever been enrolled in will be here. And some of the oldest ones you may have to go to all courses to see. And there's all the courses I've ever been enrolled in on this system. Hopefully yours won't get that big right away. In this all courses list, the little orange stars over here have a meaning. That means they're appearing on the dashboard. So you can add and remove tiles from your dashboard here by clicking and unclicking these little stars. Won't worry about groups right now. Your calendar is a personal calendar that covers all of your courses, and events from all of your courses will appear on this calendar. Some calendar entries are generated automatically, but you can generate them manually as well using this Create New Event button up here. Students have this same calendar, but each person, of course, has their own calendar. And all of the active courses that they're involved in may have events, things like due dates for assignments and tests and things like that may appear or will appear on the calendar automatically. The inbox is your messaging tool in Canvas. It's a great communication tool. You can send messages, think email, to your students and to colleagues in your courses. And you can receive messages here. It's like a little internal email system, but it's 100% reliable. If you send a message in Canvas, it'll get there. You don't have to worry about spam filters or anything like that. You can send messages by clicking this Compose a New Message button. And let's just leave it at that for the moment. I'll talk about the Canvas Commons here in a minute, but probably and I'm not going to deal with Pronto right now, which is an added service that is not in the basic overview of Canvas. But probably the most important button on this menu is the one at the bottom, or near the bottom, the Help menu. If you click that button, you get a number of help resources to help you learn about Canvas, how to use Canvas, how to get development shells. All of that is here. And generally, this is the first thing you learn about a new software system that you're presented with, is how to get help. Once you know how to do that, you can probably figure out a lot of it on your own. Not that we won't be there to help, but it's always nice to have some control over your own fate. At the top is a button for the students, which allows the students to send you a message directly through Canvas, and it will appear in your Canvas inbox. We'll talk about the Canvas guides in a second. This is something new that some of you may not have seen. It just came up about a week ago. This is a live text chat, kind of like the chat tool in Zoom, that will allow you to connect with Canvas support personnel at Instructure. These are people who work for the company that produces Canvas, so they know it pretty well. And there's a chat line for faculty and one for students. You will just see the one for students, or for faculty, excuse me, probably. I'm, as an administrator, I see them both, but you can click here, and probably faster than you can get someone to talk to, you can be online with a support representative, and you can type back and forth and ask questions, ask for service, things like that. It's generally more responsive than the telephone call, but you can do that too. You have both you and the students have a chat support line too. And you and the students also have a support hotline phone number that you can call. And this is 24/7, 365. If you have a question about Canvas at 2 a.m. on Christmas morning, you can call and you will get connected with someone who can help you. I suspect you may get the B team, or the guy who got caught in the back seat with the boss's daughter or whatever at that time of the morning on Christmas morning, but you'll get someone. 24/7, 365, and so will the students. So you're never without access to help in Canvas. There are also online tutorials. There are a veritable plethora of online tutorials for Canvas, and you can get to the ones that are produced by Instructure, by the company that writes the software, by clicking on this link here to search the Canvas guides. There are guides for instructors, for students, and for administrators. Your guides are, of course, here. They're arranged by subject. So if you want to know about assignments in Canvas, you can go and click right there. Then you see just an incredible number of guides that are very focused. Each one covers a relatively small part of the system. For instance, if you want to know how to create a homework assignment in Canvas, you can go right to this link here, click on it, and here is it's a text tutorial with screenshots, with pictures, and it will walk you through step by step how to create a Canvas assignment. And those are always available, needless to say. The students have similar ones on different topics, of course, focused on their needs. And there are just probably over 1,000 of these things. So there's a lot of information there. Whoops. Oh, no. Thought I'd sawed the limb off while I was standing on it there for a second. We also have our own Canvas tutorials. You can click there and go to our own. And that pretty much covers the things you're most likely to use there. So never without help. Okay, let's see, where are we going next? We're going to talk about, and now we're going to go into a course and take a look at the navigation within a course. We'll go back to the dashboard, which is where you start when you enter Canvas. And I've got a sample course here that I'm going to show you and work through the course menu and things like that. This is based around an old Flex course that we used to have. We taught you could get Flex credit by taking an online course. And I have been requested to update this and make it available again by a number of faculty who wanted to get some Flex credit on their own and who wanted to learn about screencasting, the subject of this course. And I'm working on that. I haven't done it yet. But this is just a sample course that it's not very big, so it's easy to describe, but it contains most of the elements of a typical online course. So it's a useful sample to display what an online course looks like in Canvas. In the course, we see, in addition to the system menu over here, which we've just been talking about, we have a course menu. And there are lots of things that you can do. The tools there are content, there's access to your files in your course, lots of things that you need or that the students will need in order to navigate a Canvas course. Then there's a big content frame in the center of the page where your course content appears, so your students can read it or view it, interact with it. This is also where their tests will show up and where their homework assignments will show up and so on when they click on a link to them. And then on the far right is another bar or panel that contains things like these content, or not content links, tool links that are related to whatever page you're on. This is your home link. This is where you enter the course. So there are some task buttons over here to do things like go into student view for you, or choose your home page, or import content from the Canvas Commons, and so on. Also, there may be something like a to-do list. For you, that's going to show things that need grading. For the students, that's going to show things that need to be turned in, or events that are taking place in your course. It's a today list from the calendar, and so on. So that's the basic screen arrangement in Canvas. And then we have these course menu links that we're going to talk about in context as we go through looking at this Canvas course, rather than just working my way down this menu. We'll jump back to those as needed so that they'll mean more. So this is a so-called opening page that you can create in Canvas. It's like a little web page, or like a little Word document, if you will, that is stored on Canvas and created on Canvas. And you can put all sorts of stuff on this opening page, graphics, video. This is a little video. Hi, everyone. Links to content inside the course and outside the course. You can type learning objectives, you can type anything you want here. A greeting for your students, though a video greeting is a nice thing to have here. Anything that you want to see the students to see right away when they enter the course. Creating this opening page is, however, optional. You can just have the students dropped into what's called the modules tool, the first link in the course menu we'll talk about here. Indeed, when you get a blank shell, the modules tool is the default entry point for the course, by default, the first thing the students see. And this is the heart of your Canvas course. Everything else is just supporting this. This is where your content, or where links to your content, live. This is where your students would go to click on something to read, say, your lecture notes, or see your PowerPoint presentation, or get a reading assignment in their textbook, or take a quiz, or submit a homework assignment. Everything happens in the modules. So the modules are the heart of the course. You can create as many modules as you like. You create these. This shows a not atypical arrangement of modules in an online course. Each set of links separated from the others by white space is a module. So a module is just a collection of links to content, to assessments, to course information, general information, whatever. And typically within a module, the links are all related to one another in some way. They all have something to do usually with the same part of your course. It's not atypical to have a first module that is a getting started or an introduction or a welcome module, where you provide the students with the information that you'd normally give them on the first day of class. You know, hi, I'm your instructor. My name is, here's, why I'm teaching this class. You hand out your syllabus. You can put your syllabus here. Here's a link to information about the instructor. And you might put many other things. Anything you do or hand out during the first day of class, you might typically put in this module. Not so much course material as just housekeeping information about the course and how it's going to proceed, what they have to do to get an A, and so on. Then typically there are a series of content modules that reflect different parts of your course, depending on how you logically subdivide your course. Like you might have a module for each chapter in the textbook, or each week of the course schedule, or you might have, just as I have here, topic modules, where you cover each topic that you cover in the course, which may include one or more chapters in the textbook, or one or more weeks of the course. And each module then covers or provides all the information that students need for that topic or that week or that chapter in your textbook. And what we have in here are links to things like course content, like lecture notes, links to material, to websites out on the web that the students need, links to PowerPoint presentations that you give in class, either just the slides themselves or perhaps a recording of you presenting the slides in a screencast. But generally course subject information and links to assessments. Like here's a homework assignment. There doesn't happen to be a quiz in this one, but in the next module, there's a quiz that they can take. So the modules are where students access your course content and their assessments and any other information that you want to provide them. And they're organized in such a way, typically they are organized in such a way that links that are related to one another, like being part of the same chapter, part of the same topic, are grouped together so the students don't have to go over here into the course menu and look around for them. There's nothing that will distress students faster in an online course than A, not knowing where to start, and B, not knowing what to do next after they accomplish a task. If the course is well designed, they'll never have to worry about that, because every link they will need will be in a module. And the modules will be arranged in the order that you present the content in your course. So realistically, all a student has to do in Canvas to take an online course is go to the top of the first module, click on the first link, see that, and then they could go back to the modules button over here on the left and go to the next link, which is instructor information in this case. But they don't have to go back to the modules tool. If they're working through the links one at a time, there's always a next button in the lower right-hand corner on the Canvas content page. So they can go to the next link in the module, which is a discussion forum, bulletin board, where they can post messages and read other people's messages and so on, a critical part of any online course. And then they can just keep going next. And once they finish doing whatever they need to do there, as evinced by the instructions you've given them, then here's their syllabus. And if they suddenly realize they forgot something in the discussion, they can go back a step at a time using a previous button. So they always have those next and previous buttons. And they can just work their way through the course that way. And it's a linear progression. They don't have to hop around. They can just go link to link to link to link, or page to page to page. And they can always go back to the modules tool and see where they are and proceed from there by clicking on the modules link in the course menu. So a student basically in taking a Canvas course just starts at the top and works their way down through the modules, one link at a time, until they get to the bottom, to the last module. I tried to indicate that this is the last module, final project. You're done when you finish this. So they work their way through that, and when they get to the bottom, they're done. And there's never any doubt about what to do next. And they can always go back into the modules tool and pick up where they left off. Obviously, they're not going to do this all in one sitting. And at the bottom, I've provided another module, which has just some supplemental readings, basically, supplemental resources for this topic. And then a couple of things that I forgot to take out that are not pointful. It's easy enough to get rid of modules. Okay, so that's sort of what a Canvas course looks like. So it's all about creating modules and putting links to your content and to your assessments into the modules. It's a fairly well defined concept, and it's pretty easy to implement. The hard part, of course, is deciding what you need to put in each module and gathering the resources together that you need, but you probably already have those, even if you've never taught online before. You've got the handouts and the resources that you use in the classroom that you can drop right into your Canvas modules. And I'm going to show you I'm going to give you a start on how to do that here in a minute. I will mention that Canvas is not necessarily the be-all and end-all of an online course, though for years and years, Canvas is an example of a system called a learning management system, an LMS. And we used to use Blackboard. Now we're using Canvas. Before Blackboard, we used WebCT and so on. They were all basically similar in the way they worked. And they're designed for asynchronous education. That is, you post information on your schedule, and then the students consume it on theirs. You and the students don't have to be online at the same time, which is a great thing, because the students may be more receptive at 2 a.m. The young ones, especially, who can stay up that late anymore. May prefer consuming their information at that time of day. Well, that's fine. That works fine with Canvas. They can go in and they can go to the modules and start working their way through at a time that's convenient for them. And that is one of the greatest attractions of online education to students, in fact. But so Canvas is designed for asynchronous education, where the students do the work on their own time, on their own schedule, within limits. You set due dates for assignments and quizzes by which time they must be completed. I mean, it's not just totally self-paced usually, though I have seen courses like that. But most of us will set due dates and so on, so that students are kind of prodded to move along and don't leave everything to the last evening. Not that we would ever do that. But basically, the students get to decide when they do the work within those limits. That's asynchronous online education. But it's not the only part of online education, especially anymore. What we're doing right now, live synchronous Zoom sessions, can also be a critical part of your online class. If the class is fully online, you may not be able to require students to be online with you live at a certain time, but you can strongly encourage it. You can bribe them with, opportunities to earn extra credit or whatever. There are lots of motivational techniques to try to get people to come in and meet with you live on Zoom, but some legitimately will not be able to. And if it's a fully online course, in most cases, you can't force them to, but you can certainly make it worth their while. And if they can't come, you can, of course, we're recording this Zoom session. You can do the same thing and put a link in your modules to your recordings, your Zoom recordings. So you can have lectures, full up lectures in there for them to view at their convenience. So it doesn't have to be, and then they can, that's asynchronous, but it doesn't have to all be done in Canvas. Zoom is also a critical part of a good online course, at least in my opinion. It didn't used to get used for that a lot, but all kinds of studies show that sort of online education is far superior to just posting information in Canvas and expecting the students to read it or view it on their own time. Having a synchronous or real-time option and then putting those recordings into Canvas is a tremendous enhancement of a more traditional asynchronous online course. But that's sort of what a Canvas course looks like. So the next question is, how do you get it to look like that? How do you create your Canvas course? How can you put these links in here? What can you put in for your students? How do you provide information to your students? How do you assess your students' mastery of that information? To see that, let's go to a blank Canvas course. Very much like the blank Canvas courses you will get when you're when you look for your fall course shells, or when you ask for a development shell to build your course in. And I've got one down here at the bottom here, I believe. Yep, there we go. That's our Canvas overview for today. This is a blank Canvas shell. This is what your shells will look like right off the bat. It's a lot like that dreaded white piece of paper that you used to roll into the typewriter. Now what? How do I get started? Well, we're going to start about talking about how to add course content, subject material into your course. Then we'll talk a little bit about how to add assessments as well. Again, just tiptoeing through the tulips, or over the top of the tulips, really, very quickly. When you get this blank shell, you pretty much have two options. One is you can hope that you already have some content stored somewhere in Canvas that you can bring forward, like an old Canvas course, or even an old Blackboard course. If you were like coming to this late and you used to use Blackboard maybe as a supplement for your on-campus courses, and you have a course shell in Blackboard somewhere from years ago that had some content in it that you'd like to start with, you can bring that over, or we can help you bring that over. you don't have active access to Blackboard anymore, but our old Blackboard system is still there and can still be accessed, and you can bring content over. Or perhaps a colleague would loan you their content, a colleague who teaches your same course and who's taught it online or has used Canvas as a supplement for an on-campus course before, might share content with you. Indeed, some departments have basic course shells pre-built for some of the more common or more frequently offered courses in the department, and they may provide that to you. It's worth looking into possibilities like that to give you a start if you're coming to this brand new, which is what I'm assuming here, because that's what this session's about. So you might be able to get started early on with that. How do you get started? Well, in the wonderful event that you have a course, some course content that can be automatically brought in. To do that, you go to this button here that says Import Existing Content. That's a new addition here, by the way. You used to have to look for that a little more strenuously. This is how you import content, either from one of your courses or from a course export that maybe a colleague or a department has provided to you. You start by telling Canvas what kind of content this is, where it came from, basically. Copy a Canvas course means you will copy one of your courses that you previously taught on Canvas and copy that content into this shell without having to redevelop the course. You should never have to load content from scratch into a course for a particular course more than once. Or you might have been provided with what's called a Canvas course export package by a colleague or by your department that you can import into this course. Or you might have a Blackboard shell, an old Blackboard shell that you can, or an old Blackboard export file that you can bring in. And the process is pretty much the same in each case. Let's say I want to import a Canvas course export package that somebody's given me, for instance. I just click on that. That import package or export package is in the form of a zip or compressed archive file. I click choose file. I find that file wherever I've downloaded it. I click on it. I select it and I click open. And that tells Canvas where the content is. I choose what I want to import, all of the content that's in that export package or just some of it. Usually you'll import it all and just throw away what you don't want. And then you just click import. I'm not going to do that because I want to keep this shell blank right now because I want to show you how to add content manually next. But that's all there is to importing content into your Canvas shell. It's very quick and easy. And if you'd use the same process, if you're copying content like from your development shell into your live your live teaching shell, you just say copy a Canvas course and you search for like your development shell. And I've got a bunch of them, unfortunately. Let's see. Let me just pick one here. And then it's the same thing. You take all content or some content, you click import. It takes almost none of your time to do this. It may take Canvas a few minutes to actually do the copy, but you don't have to sit there and watch it do that. You can move on and do something else. So that's all there is to importing existing content into your Canvas course that is provided by a colleague or by your department or by yourself if you're moving content from a development shell into a live shell. But there's another way that anybody might, even if you don't have a kind colleague or a proactive department, there's a way that you can pull and get started pulling content into Canvas. And that is the Canvas Commons over here in the system menu. I skipped over that before. I said we'd come back to it. Well, here we are. If I click on the Canvas Commons, this is a huge repository of online course content in just about every subject you can imagine that you can use for free, that people all over the country and all over the world have donated. And you can do the same with your content. But it's a wonderful repository. Somebody give me a subject area. I'll watch the chat tool, or I'll watch the, or you can just unmute yourself and speak up. Try to get you involved a little bit here.
Dance.
Oops,
Dance.
sorry. Go ahead. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Dance.
Dance.
Dance. Did I hear that correctly?
I think so.
Yes, dance. Just dance.
1,618 results. Wow. And this covers these results, these hits, are everything from quizzes to homework assignments to Canvas pages. We'll see what a Canvas page is in a minute. It's basically just a content page that you create in Canvas. Entire modules full of links with the associated content. And even, if I scroll down far enough, even entire courses that you can preview, see what's in them.
Oh, wow.
Quite a lot here. This looks pretty interesting. You can see, yeah, 11 modules, 32 assignments, 10 quizzes. Wow, this is quite an extensive, and you can use this in any way that makes sense to you. You can import this content and then throw away what you don't, just delete what you don't want. Or you can just keep a couple of pieces of it. You see something in there, wow, I like that. This is not so appropriate for my course, but that's great. You can keep this, and the details will tell you who did it, who donated it. The grade level, of course, is arguable. You'll find useful content and at all levels. And it's shared with everybody. This person doesn't even ask for attribution, though it's a courtesy if you use somebody else's content to somewhere in your course, you acknowledge them. And if you decide you want to use, just for the sake of argument, let's say you decided you wanted to use this, all you have to do is click on this blue button here that says import/download. You're then given a list of all the courses that you're enrolled in as an instructor. And you just select the one you want to put this in. You can put it in more than one at a time if you like. And then go to the bottom here and click Import into Course. And over a period of time, after magic has occurred, that content will just appear in your course shell. You don't have to do anything else. You just pick what you want and click import and select the course, and bang, it's in your, you just go away for a little while, and when you come back, it's in there. Usually only takes a few minutes. I'm not going to actually do this because I want this course shell pristine for the moment. But that's all there is to importing course content from here. And I'd like to point out another option associated with the Canvas Commons here. A company called OpenStax has gotten into bed with the California Community College's online education initiative and has produced open textbooks. That is free for your students, free ebooks, free electronic versions, or the students can get a printed copy for like $50, which is a pretty good deal these days. But let me type OpenStax here. So we can look at some of those. These are all full courses that you can import with the textbook in quite a variety of subjects. So this is worth a look to see if there might be, in effect, a ready-made course almost ready for you to go. Not that you wouldn't modify it and put your own content in and rearrange it to suit your teaching style and organization, but it could give you a tremendous leg up on creating an online course from scratch. I just wanted you to know that those were there, and they're quite good. I've looked at the one I'm not qualified to evaluate a lot of your subject areas, but I did look at I am qualified, or used to be anyway, to evaluate chemistry courses, and I went to the basic chemistry course that these people provide, and it's actually excellent. So something to think about, just ways to short circuit the course development process. But sooner or later, you're going to have to be adding your own content into your course and creating your own assessments and things like that. So that's what we're going to look at now, how to do that. How do you do this from scratch? Or even if it's not from scratch, how do you then modify? And getting started on doing that in your blank shell is pretty easy, because I give you this huge icon in the center of the content frame that says create a new module. Well, we ain't created any modules yet, so that means create my first module. And that's what that button will do for you. You just click that and you get an add module box. And this module can be called anything you like. Typically, your first module might be something like getting started, or welcome, or introduction, or first day, or whatever. I'm just going to call it welcome. And you can change your mind later if you like. I give it a name, and I click add module, and I've got my first module. It's a blank bucket waiting for me to put links to content into it. How do I put links in? Or how do I put stuff into this module? Well, you've got this little shortcut here, which I don't think much of, where you can just pull a file over from your computer and drop it in here, but that's somewhat limiting, and it doesn't really show the numerous options you have here. So let's go to this little plus sign here that's on the same line as the name of the module. That is your add item button for your module. This is where you get started adding stuff to your module. Just click that plus sign, and you get an add item box. So what can you add to this module? Well, here's the list of things in this little menu that you can add to the module. Assignments, that is homework assignments. Typically, you give the students some instructions. They go and carry out those instructions, and they create a file of some sort that you, under your direction. It could be an Excel spreadsheet, it could be a Word document, it could be anything, AutoCAD drawing, whatever. And then the student uploads that file to Canvas to submit the assignment using an interface that is automatically created when you create the assignment. So basically all you have to do is figure out what you want the students to do and type that in. And we'll see that. We'll look at a quick example of that later. A quiz, self-explanatory, that the students will take on Canvas that will, if it contains objective questions, Canvas will grade the objective questions for you, like multiple choice, matching, true, false. Or if it's essay questions, you'll have to grade them, but the students can take the quiz online. A file, which might be any kind of computer file, a Word document, again, a spreadsheet, a PowerPoint presentation, any of those can be uploaded into here and the student can then access the file. A Canvas page is a file, but it's a file that you create on Canvas. It's basically a little web page that you create on Canvas rather than typing it up in Word and then uploading it to Canvas, as would be the case with a file. A Canvas page you create in Canvas using an editor built into Canvas. We'll see how to do that in a minute. A discussion topic or forum, which is a bulletin board where you give the students some direction about what to post, and then they post messages to the board and everybody can read it. And then people can reply to the posts and you can get a discussion about just about any kind of topic going. And it's asynchronous because people don't have to be online at the same time. They can read the posts later after they've been posted sometime later and reply to them. And then the people who made the original post can read the replies and you can get a back and forth going, even though people don't have, in a circumstance where people don't have to be online at the same time, an asynchronous discussion. Or an external URL, which is just a link to a web page on outside of Canvas, like a link to, say, a TED Talk that you want your students to watch, whatever. So those are the types of items. An external tool would be a link to something in like my whatever lab, and a text header is just a subdivider that says, you know, that just provides some information to the student right there on the, you won't use those that much probably. So we're going to start off talking about the types of course content that you can add. And then we'll talk about how to add assessments, tests, homework assignments, graded discussions. So your course content might be in the form of a file. So how do you get a link to that file into Canvas so that the student can just click on it and bring the file up? Well, you do that by selecting File here. And since this is a blank course, there aren't any files to link. So you have to tell Canvas that you're going to upload a new file. You do that just by clicking on where it says New File. And you can now do multiple files at the same time. If you have like a series of Word documents that you want to put in one right after the other, you can do multiple files at one time, which is a nice new feature that hasn't been there that long. So to upload that file to Canvas and make it available to your students, you just click the Choose Files button that pops up when you click New File. And you find that file wherever you've stored it on your local computer, which hopefully is better organized than mine is here. This is let's say, I think there's a little welcome PDF file. And these files can be any sort of file. But the most common types that you might upload are Word documents, PDFs, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations are some of the most common types, but by no means the only types. You can pretty much put any kind of computer file here. So I'll just take that PDF, I'll select it, and I'll click Open. Now Canvas knows which file I want to upload and where it is. And to get it into my module, I just click Add Item. And bang, there it is. So we just put our first bit of content into a Canvas course, and it wasn't terribly painful. Assuming we already had the file created. Now that's where the pain comes in. That's where your professional judgment and knowledge come in. You create the files that you want to share with your students. You probably have a lot of handouts prepared already. With Canvas, you don't have to print them out on paper. I'll get it out in a minute. You don't have to print them out on paper and hand them out in class. You put one copy of it on Canvas and they can download it anytime they like, and they can't lose it. So to see this file, a student would just click on this link here. And since this is a common file type, Canvas actually gives a view of it, or opens the file in a viewer that's on the server. This came up so quickly because that didn't actually have to be downloaded to the student's computer and opened up there in say an Acrobat Reader in this case. Canvas opens it and displays it to the students in what amounts to a web page. Canvas can only do that for some of the more common file types. If Canvas can't open the file in a viewer, the student still has this link here that they can click on to actually download that file to their local computer and save it and open it, assuming they have an application on their local computer to open it, which in this case they would, and there they can view it that way. But if this were a large PDF, that might take some time. It's going to show up a lot faster in the server-side viewer here, generally. So you don't have to worry so much about students not being able to open common file types with Canvas as we used to have to worry in Blackboard. So you can be fairly sure that if it's not some esoteric file type, that the students will be able to see what's in the file. And then when they're done reading that file, they can just go back to the Modules tool and proceed. In order to make sure that the students can see what I put into the modules, I have to publish the modules. And that's done with this little button right here. It shows when something is not published, that is not visible to students, you see this slash circle. If you click on that slash circle, you get a white check mark and a green circle, and it's now published. Now students can see it. And you can publish and unpublish individual items within a module too. So if you don't want students to see something right away, you can unpublish it or not publish it, and then publish it later when it's appropriate. So that's how we upload a file. Well, what about a page? Well, yeah, now let's look at Canvas Pages, which is the other major type of content delivery in Canvas. A Canvas page is a file, but it's one that you create on Canvas rather than creating on your local computer and uploading it. The advantage to Canvas page, well, there are a number of advantages to Canvas pages over files that you upload to Canvas, but probably the best one is that the Canvas page loads a lot faster for the students generally. They see it instantly rather than having to wait for the viewer to load and convert the file to a page and so on. Pages load quickly, and you can put all sorts of content into pages. Since we don't have any pages, this is a blank course, I'll start a new page. And the only thing I have to do right off the bat is give the page a name. And I'll call this Instructor Information. Spell that right? No, not quite. Fortunately, you have spell check everywhere in Canvas. Another nice thing about Canvas. Don't worry about indentation for now. So I just have to give the page a name that identifies it and says something about what I'm going to put in it, and then add the item. And I get a link just like I did to the file. But when I click on this link, of course, there's nothing there but the name of the file, or the name of the page, excuse me. So how do I add information to that? Well, you tell me.
You edit.
Edit. There it is right there. Usually, Canvas has a wonderfully intuitive user interface most of the time, until it doesn't. No system is perfect, and not everything is completely intuitive, but Canvas does a pretty good job. That indeed is why Canvas was selected for all of the California community colleges. But I can just click edit here, and when I do that, I get an editor that looks like kind of a mini Microsoft Word. This is called the Canvas Rich Content Editor. Not that you need to remember that, except the word rich is a good thing to think about, because this allows you to enter all sorts of information for your students, not just text, though it's built around a text editor, certainly, but there are all sorts of other things you can enter here. But first thing you'd probably enter would be text. And I've already got the title up there. So the first, actually, probably in this case, the first thing might not be text. In this case, the first thing might be a picture. The students love to see your picture in an online course, because otherwise they never see you, unless you make videos for them, which I hope you will, and so on. But putting a picture in something like this would be a good idea. There's a tool for that right here under Embed Image. If you've got a little digital camera, you've probably seen that icon before. That's the typical or universal icon for a digital image. Looks like a little mountain with a little star up above it. And if you click on that, this tool is not as intuitive as it might be. You don't want the first, generally you don't want the first tab here, which it shows you by default. You want the second one. You're going to upload an image to Canvas, and that image is going to display in the tool. You have to tell Canvas whether you want this image to go into your course files or your personal files. You have each course has some file space allocated to it, storage space, and you personally have some allocated. Usually you'll put it in the course files for the course. And when you select that, when you select course files, a little button lights up that says upload file. So you click on that, and it opens up a file manager box on your computer, either the File Explorer in Windows or the Finder on the Mac. And we go looking for pictures wherever we've stored them. I don't want to spend too much time looking. I've got so many pictures in here. See if I can find myself. Oh, there I am. click the image you want to insert into the page, and click Open. That uploads the file to Canvas. You're basically done at that point, though we would appreciate it, we would urge you to include what's called alt text. This is for blind students who are using software called a screen reader to work their way through your course and to actually take your course. And of course, the screen reader will read any text that comes up on the screen, but it can't handle pictures. So alt text serves as what the screen reader will read to the student in lieu of the picture. And it might be something like Dave Gibberson or something like that describes what that's about. Or if the image is entirely decorative and doesn't have any information in it, you can tell them that too. And the screen reader will just ignore it. So once you enter your alt text, you just click Update, and that image appears in your page. Now that image is way bigger than nobody needs to see me that big. So I can click on it, and I get little handles at the corners, little squares, and I can click and drag those in and shrink this thing down to a manageable size so that they don't have to see me that big. I can center it if I want to, do all the usual stuff. And now I've got a text editor as well. I can just type my name. And I have all the usual text editing tools. I can center that if I want to. I can bold it. I can italicize it and do all that stuff. I don't want to underline it. I can make it bigger or smaller. All the usual stuff. I can also edit or enter bulleted and numbered lists. I can enter exponents or superscripts and subscripts. I can change indents, all the usual Microsoft, or some of the usual Microsoft Word tools and similar editors. So text, I can change text color and background color and all that usual stuff. I'm not going to go through that. I might also put my email address in there. I can also add video to a Canvas page. Indeed, this is the best way generally to insert video into your course, is to add it to a Canvas page. I go to do that, I'll go to this Insert Edit Media tool here, which is to video what the embed image tool is to still images. Click on that, and I just need the URL for it. Has to be a video that's online. We don't recommend you upload video to Canvas. Canvas is not designed as a video server. You don't have enough storage space in your course to put a lot of video in there. So you typically put your video on YouTube or the Zoom cloud if you're doing Zoom recordings to the cloud or whatever. There are lots, or it might be a TED Talk that you found online or a video that you found on a subject matter website somewhere. As long as you have the link to it, you can just put that in this source box here, and Canvas will give the student a way to get to it. Let's go to YouTube. Let me pick a video. Oops, I goofed there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking for something here. Let me see. He said as he spends time looking for something. Oh well, let me just pick one. Oh, there's a YouTube video. Let me just bring that up. On YouTube, there's a share button just below the video. that will provide me with the YouTube link, the link to that video on YouTube. I can just copy that to my clipboard and then go back to Canvas and paste that in right here in the source box. And say, okay, and boom. YouTube videos work really nicely. You get what's called an embed, which is a fancy link that is interactive, and the student can just click here and play the video. This might be just a personal introduction. You know, here I am, I'm me, this is my background, this is why I'm qualified to teach this course, and so on. And you you can just put all sorts of information about yourself in here and then save. That saves the page. And since I started with this in the modules tool, started doing this in the modules tool, there's now a link to this page in the module. If I publish it, the student can see it, and they can just click on that link and up comes the page. So most of your course content is going to be put in one of those two ways, either uploading a file that you created offline and that you want your students to view, and you upload the file to Canvas and you put a link to it in the module, all in one process, all in one operation, or you create a Canvas page in Canvas and provide the information that way. And indeed, the Canvas page might have been created in another course or by someone else, and you might find a page in the Commons that you could bring in. But those are going to be your two principal ways of sharing information, your information that you create with your students. The third general type of content is a so-called external URL, or just a web link, a hyperlink that links out to something in outside of Canvas. Before I add that, let me make another module here to show you how to do that. You can, once you flesh out your welcome module, and you'll probably have a lot more than that in it, you can start creating your subject matter modules by just clicking the Add Module button in the Modules tool. And it's the same thing we saw before. You just give the module a name, like, oh, I don't know, Topic 1, or Week 1, or Chapter 1, or however you subdivide your course. And you add content to this module the same way you did to that one, by clicking the plus sign associated with it, the Add Item button. And here we might add an external URL, a web link. And this could be a link to a Zoom recording in the Zoom cloud. It could be a link to a website that you want the students to visit. It could be a link to any document that's stored online that you have the URL for, the web address for. For instance, this was a course about screencasting, which is, by the way, not a mysterious activity. We're screencasting right now with Zoom. I'm recording my computer screen and I'm talking about it. That's a screencast. Incredibly useful instructionally. And you'll be able to go back and view this screencast later if you want to. Just have lots of coffee available. And so I'm going to select an external URL. And all Canvas asks me for then is the link, the URL, and a name. And I happen to know there's a guide to screencasting out there that I like to use. So I'm just going to call this Screencasting Guide. But obviously you can make that anything. Probably helps if you spell it right. Jeez. My mother told me to learn how to type. And then add item. Oh, no, I have to have the URL first, of course. Let me go look for that. I can search for it in Google. Text, I happen to know this is on the TechSmith website. TechSmith. I don't, Google's wonderful. I don't even have to spell TechSmith right. TechSmith Guide to Screencasting. That's it. I click there and I get the URL. It's in the location line at the top of my web browser. I can just copy that to the clipboard, go back to Canvas and paste that into this URL box here. Then I have a name. I can choose whether I want the page to open in a new tab or just in the Canvas content frame. In this case, that either one will probably work. If you're linking to videos online, load it in the new tab every time. Otherwise, it may not work well. You find that out the hard way, and then you just go back and you load it again and tell it to load in a new tab. Add item. And there is an external link as evidenced by the little icon, the chain link icon. This is a page, and you mouse over that little icon that tells you it's a page. That's a characteristic icon. And this, the paperclip, is a file attachment, an uploaded file. So you know what these items are just by looking at the icons associated with them. But so then if I publish all this, the student will be able to come in and just click on that link and go out to that website and view it. That's content you didn't have to create. If it's good enough, if it's useful for your students, that's great. And anything that is publicly posted on the web is fair game for this. You don't have to worry about copyright or royalties or anything like that. If somebody publishes something publicly on the web, if you can get to it without having to enter a username and a password, you can use it in your course. And nobody can tell you you can't. Copyright issues are someone else's problem in that event. They deal with that. If it's posted online, you get to use it. The only thing you may have to worry about is that if they posted it illegally, it may get taken down right in the middle of your course or something like that. But that doesn't happen very often. So when I'm done, then I can just go back to the modules. Or I can go back to the previous link in the previous module and navigate that way. So it all works pretty intuitively. Canvas is really quite simple for your students. I did when we were doing a series of trial runs with Canvas, where we had actual courses running with actual students in them, but we hadn't fully adopted it yet. I was the support contact for all the students, and we had hundreds of students in some semesters in these courses. And I almost never heard from students who had trouble with Canvas, except I forgot my password. I heard a lot of that. but they rarely had questions about how to do stuff in Canvas. It's just so intuitive for the students that they don't usually have a lot of trouble, which is, again, a major reason why Canvas was selected by the California community colleges. It's the most intuitive system for students out there. So this is content. This is how you add content to your Canvas course. You probably have a bunch of files, you may want to make a bunch of Canvas pages that you want to share with your students. This is how you share your subject information with your students. And it's easy. The hard part, of course, is deciding what to share and creating the files and the pages to share. And I don't minimize that task. That takes some time. But you may have done much of that already in teaching face-to-face. You just need to put that into Canvas. And the nuts and bolts of putting that information into Canvas are pretty simple and pretty quick. it really doesn't, once you've got an image in your mind of what you want in the different, how you want your information organized, actually putting it into Canvas really doesn't take that long. It's bang, bang, you know, file, 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 page, 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 and just go. So that's how you add content, course content to Canvas. Now let's talk assessments. You can provide a lot of course content to students, like in Zoom recordings, Zoom sessions, and their associated recordings. It's up to you how much static content, like files and pages and so on, you create. You may just do a lot of it by referring students to your lectures. I should show you how to put a lecture, a Zoom lecture, into here. That's something you'll definitely want to know how to do. Like in this first topic here, topic module, I can click the Add Item button, and I can create an external, and I can ask for an external URL. And this might be Zoom lecture. Probably it'll be a little more specific than that in your case. Now I just need the URL for a Zoom recording. Well, if you stored your Zoom recording on YouTube, I've already shown you how to get a YouTube file, YouTube video link. So let's look at how you would get a Zoom recording link that was stored in the Zoom cloud. You would go to zoom.us, the Zoom website. Nice, simple URL. I love that. Just one of the things to love about Zoom. And when you go to the Zoom website, let me log out so you see how to log in here. When you go to the Zoom website, you'd have to sign in using the credentials for your Zoom account provided to you by Confer Zoom. Just click sign in, and you'll have an email address for user ID and a password, and you'll know what those are. Those will be provided to you by Confer Zoom. So you just sign in. What? Really? I don't need this right now. This is the first time I've ever seen Zoom do this. I hope that's all. Anybody else see any tractors there that I'm missing?
Oh.
Ah. Ah. Literally, that's the first time that's ever happened to me when I've logged into Zoom. Ugh. Okay.
Oh, but Dave, do you usually sign into Confer Zoom? Why just Zoom US this time?
Conferzoom.us and zoom.us are the same thing.
Oh, thank you.
It's just all the same Zoom website.
Okay.
And you log in, they work exactly the same way. Confer Zoom is just a subset of Zoom that covers the accounts that are paid for by the state chancellor's office.
Okay. So we
but
can always just go to Zoom.
You can go to zoom.us and log into your Confer Zoom account just fine.
Oh, thank you.
That's what I'm doing. I'm using a Confer Zoom account right now.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, they don't tell you that. What am I trying to do? Oh yeah, I'm trying to find a recording, right? Well, your recordings are there. If you've sent a recording to the Zoom cloud, which is the default with your Confer Zoom accounts. If you just hit record and there's no option to record to the local computer, you're sending it to the Zoom cloud. And they're stored right here in your recordings link in your Zoom account management screens. And you just have this big list of recordings that are timed and dated so you know which one is which. I'm just going to pick one here at random. And on the page for that recording, there's a little button that says copy shareable link. You just hit that, and that copies the link for that video to your clipboard.
Hmm.
They try to make it easy for you. So then you go back to Canvas, you paste that into the URL box for the external URL item we're creating. And in this case, you must select load in a new tab, otherwise it just doesn't work. So if in doubt, select load in a new tab. It will never hurt. It may save you from providing something to your students that they can't use. So fail on with load in a new tab and then add the item.
Okay, can
Now,
I ask you, Dave?
Absolutely.
So for your like your introduction video, instead of doing it on YouTube, could you just do a private with yourself Zoom thing? And
Absolutely.
okay, thanks. All right.
Absolutely. But you can't embed it into all you can get in a Canvas page is a link in that case, which is fine. It works.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's not going to
But it's not as sexy looking.
Oh, okay.
Of
All
course,
right.
in my case, that's hopeless anyway, so I don't have to worry about that. But anyway, with this external URL link now, that's a Zoom lecture I gave. I just click on that, and the student, and then OK, opening a new window, and the student can now play that Zoom lecture.
Oh.
And that's all there is to providing a link to that lecture.
We're now recording. And welcome to today's seminar on grading in Canvas. Once your students take their
Dave,
assessment,
I have a
Just let me shut
And
it
their
off here.
grades.
There we go. Okay, now it's shut off. Go ahead.
when you pasted the URL for previously, it directly opened without having to go to open in a new window.
Correct.
And this
But that
time,
won't work. That generally will not work with video links. You want
Mhm.
to open it in a new tab. And that adds one step for the students, but it's not a big thing.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
If I had not done that here, the video wouldn't play. Found that out the hard way. I put a link in a course and it didn't work. So that's you'll learn things that way too, or get reminded of things that way too. But it won't. The world will not end. So that's how you can put your Zoom lectures in here. So you can do a lot of content delivery that way. But what you really can't do with Zoom, and I'll take questions at the end. We're doing pretty well on time, but I want to make sure I get done with everything you need to see. You can deliver a lot of content in your Zoom lectures, though you will probably want to have some content in pages and files as well. But what you can't do with Zoom, really, is evaluate your students, assess them. And that's where Canvas really comes into its own. Canvas has a great set of assessment tools that you can add to your content modules. You add assessments the same way you added, or you start to add assessments the same way you added content, by clicking on the Add Item button for the module where you want the link to appear to the assessment. This would be the assessment for this module. So the assessments are in context with the content that supports them, or that you're testing on. And you have three types of assessments in Canvas. You have homework assignments, quizzes, and gradable discussions. Those are the three ways you can assess your students. So let's start with a homework assignment. We'll create a new assignment, obviously, by just clicking on the new assignment button. And we have to give the assignment a name. I'll just call this Define Screencasting. And add the item. But of course, that's just a title right now. It's not an assessment yet. It's not an assignment. So if I click on the name and go to the edit button, then I can make an assignment out of it. First thing I add are instructions. Define term screencasting. Include instructional applications of the technique. Maybe 3 of them. And list 2 screencasting tools you can use to create screencasts. Sorry to make you watch me type. I know that's painful. I ain't that great at it. Okay, so they're hopefully fairly clear instructions. And I might also include how I want them to get this, the definition to me. Upload. That's a P. Upload your answers as a Word document. That way I ensure that I can open it when they upload it to me. Or I could instruct them to just type their answer in a text box that I provide to them. Those are your 2 main options for students fulfilling a homework assignment. Either you provide them with a text box just like this one where they can type their answer, or you have them create a file and upload that to the assignment. We'll see what that looks like in a minute.
How do you make a text box for them? Because maybe some of them are just working on their phones.
Well, they can still do it on their phones.
Okay.
And they can upload files from their phones as well.
Oh my God.
Canvas is so mobile friendly that students can realistically do just about anything you ask them to do in Canvas on a smartphone.
Okay.
It's much better than Blackboard was in that respect.
Okay.
So, and a lot of your students will be doing that, as you probably realize, since you asked that question. A lot of your students don't have computers, particularly the ones that weren't planning on taking online courses.
Right.
But they can do almost everything they need to do on a smartphone. And the few things they can't, or you can fairly easily make accommodations for. But students can type files, they can type Word documents on their phones. And Word on the phone is free.
Oh.
And they don't even have to type.
On their phone.
They can dictate Word documents on their phone.
Oh my gosh.
Come and see our session on mobile mobile apps in Canvas. But they can do that. It's easier to do some things on the smartphone than it is to do them on a computer. Anyway, there's our instructions. We have to give this a number of points that it's going to be worth in our grading scheme. I'm not going to do a lot of this, but the submission type I have to show you. How are they going to get this to you? Well, in those happy days when we could actually do this in a classroom, they could just turn it into you on paper, but that ain't happening for a while. So almost certainly they're going to turn it in online. So that's going to be your selection here for submission type, is going to be online for fall semester anyway. And within that selection, there are some options. And the 2 most common ones are either text entry or file upload. You can actually give them you can give them both options, let them do what they want to. Website URL is just a subset of text entry, and so is media recording. I would just, in this case, it's the most common selection is file upload. The student's going to create a file on their computer or on their smartphone and upload it to satisfy the assignment. You can restrict upload file types so that if they can't submit something that you can't open, but that's not usually necessary these days. If it's a writing assignment of some length, you can have it automatically checked for plagiarism using our plagiarism checker, Unicheck. And you can set due dates and availability dates that govern when they can actually get in and submit the assignment. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to save this assignment. I'm going to let them turn it in whenever they want. I don't necessarily advocate that, but that's in the interest of speed and simplicity here. That's all. That's the bare minimum you have to do to create an assignment. It's ready to go. So what does this look like to a student? You can tell by going to your home link in your course. You can become a test student in your own course by going from the home link. If you go over here to this task menu on the right, there's a student view link. You can click on that, and you're now seeing the course as your students, and you can operate the course as if you were as if you were one of your students. So I can go to the modules. I hope I published that. I didn't. Well, that's how you find out. That's one of the things you use Student View for. Oops, I forgot to publish that. So I leave Student View down here in the lower right, and I go back to being me, and I publish these suckers so my test student can actually see them. Then I go back into Student View, go to Home and Student View, and now I can see them. And to submit that assignment, I just go there. I read the assignment. Maybe I go somewhere and I create a Word document. Well, I've already done that. So at this point, I don't have to submit the assignment till I'm ready. I just read the instructions, and then maybe I open up Word and I create the Word document. But if I've already done that, I just click Submit Assignment, and I get the option to upload a file, either from my local computer or from my Google Drive if I use Google Docs. And then I just choose the file that I want to upload. I find that on my computer. Let's see, it's here somewhere. There it is. Select it, click Open. That tells Canvas which file I want to upload. I can add more than one file if I need to. And then I just submit the assignment. And that's all there is to the student. April, I see you there, but oh, and now I get the little confetti that congratulates me for submitting the assignment. So the student knows the assignment went through when they see that, reassures them. So that's all there is to a student, to using a homework assignment in Canvas. Quizzes. If we go back to the module, I can create a quiz, same way or similar to the way I created a homework assignment, by clicking the Add button, selecting a quiz to create, click on New Quiz, give the quiz a name, and add it. Then you click on Quiz 1, you edit the quiz to actually put the questions in. Indeed, the first thing you do is maybe type some instructions. Probably more detailed than that. You maybe set a time limit. You determine, by default, the students can only take the quiz once, but you can give them multiple attempts if you like. You can govern what feedback the students get, and we cover this in more detail in our assessments session, but this is a pretty good default. And you can set due dates and availability dates. Those are your test options. To add your questions, you go to the Questions tab up here. And you can add a question, like any one of these question types. There's quite a few. Multiple choice question being the most common. Type Y. I was alive in the 60s. Possible answers. Why not? Was the standard answer. Or volcanoes. Create air. Or cow flatulence. Or the ever popular all of the above. Just put in my possible answers. I decide how many points I want this question to be worth. And I update question, which I always forget to do. And there's that question. And you can, if you show question details, you see what the question will look like. Obviously, I'm probably going to have more questions. And if I have question banks, I can find questions and pull them into the test very quickly. I don't really have time to show you that right now, but that's an option. You can also have Canvas randomly select questions from a question bank and create a different test for each student using question groups. Attend our next assessments session or view one of the recorded assessment sessions on our on-demand website, and you can see how to do that. But for now, I'll just save this quiz. I'll publish it. I can do that right here so that my student can see it. Then I go to my student view again, go to Home. Come on, Canvas. There you go. And Student View. You'll use that Student View a lot. That's how you avoid surprises like, I couldn't see that. So the student goes to the quiz, take the quiz, answer the question, submit the quiz. That's basically all there is to it. And they can do that on a smartphone as well as they can do it on a computer. It works great on the phone.
Yeah.
I answered all the above. Oops, I forgot, I goofed. If I leave student view, I forgot one step in that question. And I can see my quizzes under quizzes as well as in the modules. I can go and edit this quiz, but of course not from, yeah, there we go. And go back to that question, and I can edit that question. I forgot to tell Canvas which one was the correct answer. All the above is the correct answer. Yes, yes, yes. I update, regrade. If you make a mistake, you can change it and regrade everybody's test automatically. And then update and save. So the process of creating a quiz and providing it to your students is not especially intimidating. There is more detail to it than that. And again, those recordings will help with that, or we'll be doing assessments in Canvas again before long. Come join us for that one. But this should hopefully will be enough to get you started. Graded discussions, you can just add a discussion topic from the add item menu, new topic. And this might be topic 1 discussion. Add the item, same thing. You can edit this, and very similar to the process for the other two assessments. You need to put some sort of prompt about what you want your students to discuss. Like, tell us about yourself. An icebreaker. You might want to make that a little more detailed, but that works. You can set this to be graded so that students get credit for this. You will almost certainly want to allow threaded replies, and you may want to force your users to post before they can see other people's replies, so they don't just copy somebody else's post. You set a number of points that this is worth, and you can set due dates and availability dates. Save that. That's all there is to creating a gradable discussion. That will appear in your module since you created it from the module, and the student can just come in here and post to that discussion and tell you about themselves. And they can post videos, they can post pictures, they can post anything, you know, all that stuff that rich content editor gives them, because that's what they use to create their discussion posts. So those are your 3 types of assessments you can use in Canvas. Homework assignments, where they upload a file, usually. Quizzes, where they take a quiz just like they would on paper. Or discussion topics, where they post to a class discussion and you evaluate their participation. Oh, let's see how we're doing here. We're almost out of, well, we are out of time. Let's see if, did I get through all of this? Oh, except for, just give me a minute more if I may. There's a couple of these buttons I need to mention in the course menu that we haven't used. Grades, obviously, is your gradebook. When you create assessments, you automatically get columns for those assessments in the gradebook. When a student submits something, you see this little icon here. You click on that icon, you go to the speed grader, you get the student's submission, you can give comments, you give a grade, and you submit. And that's basically the grading process in Canvas. This will take me back to the course and get back to the course menu. All of your discussions that you may have created in your modules are also available under the discussions link. Announcements are like just messages that you post in the course. It's like an email, only you don't send it to anybody. Everybody can see the announcement. You have a subject line or a title and a text box, and you just type the announcement in there
And they can
save
reply.
it, and everybody sees it. Yes.
And they can reply too. I've had
If
them
you
reply.
allow it. If you allow
Yeah, I do.
it. I personally, I don't especially want a lot of discussion. If I announce something, I just want them to read it.
Yeah.
If I want a discussion, I'll make a discussion topic. And I definitely don't allow liking.
So
But
Dave, how do you,
that's a personal choice. Yes.
Dave, how do you distinguish between whether they can respond to it or not?
Right here under options,
Okay.
there's an allow users to comment, and it's off by default.
So if you want to use an announcement, so to speak, as an email, and they can respond to it to you directly, you should not use announcement. Should you use email? This is my question.
you'd use the inbox
Okay.
and send it to them.
Right, because everybody can see what they reply. Right,
Exactly. It's a public forum.
right.
It's a public. The announcements are not really designed for discussions. I don't know why they even put that in there.
Well, I just did it because my students are new to Canvas and they have no clue. And so they're reaching out for help, and then they can all help each other. So I'm finding it useful. So I'm,
Well, indeed,
You
and
know.
indeed, it's there if it works for you.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do that, and all of that's turned off by default. If you just post an announcement, they'll just be able to read it.
Mhm.
There's a good possibility that they will also get an email message in their personal inbox, their personal email address inbox, indicating that you have posted an announcement and here's the text of it. But that's something they control in their notification settings in Canvas, which is it's a topic that I covered just a couple of days ago, and I'm about to put that recording up. So there's some possibility that they won't have to come into Canvas and click on announcements to see it. They may get it in their email, but you can't be sure of that, and you cannot ensure that. You just have to hope that they either click on the announcements or that they have not changed the default notification setting that notifies them by email if you post an announcement, but you can't depend on that. People is your roster. I don't want to actually post an announcement. People is your roster. You can give students access to this or not, as you prefer. Pages is your list of all the pages that you've created in the course. I've only created one so far. Files is the files that you've uploaded to the course.
Dave, could I just say
Yes.
something about people? I found that very useful. I saw who was on, how many minutes, how many
Right.
hours. And the people who weren't on, I sent them a special email to try to.
Right, you can get to the Canvas analytics through that, which is
Oh.
another session that
Oh,
Canvas
okay.
has good analytics that will tell you, show you how to find out what your students are doing in your course.
Oh, okay.
So
And
Dave,
I'm about to upload that recording too.
Okay.
Dave, can I just ask a quick question? So if I want to send a weekly email, I should do it through the inbox, and they will
Yes.
all get it, and they can all respond to me directly.
Correct.
Okay.
And they will for sure get it in their Canvas inbox. They have a Canvas inbox just like yours.
Right.
But if they haven't changed the default notification settings, they'll also get it in their personal email.
Right. Okay.
And they can reply to you from their personal email.
Right. Well, that's good to know. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, that's real handy. The syllabus link is to a syllabus tool that includes a course schedule that you may or may not decide to use. Most people just upload their syllabus as a file to a module, as I did here. Oops, I didn't. I didn't get to loading my syllabus in, but I could just load my syllabus as a Word document here by selecting File, New File, find my syllabus, click Open, and add it just that fast. That's assuming I already have it typed in a Word document somewhere.
Yeah, we actually had to do that for the training, the online training course.
Yeah.
We had to upload a syllabus, and they gave us a template.
Right.
We
That
did.
template is this. That template is this thing right here.
Yes.
But you don't have to use that. That's
No.
up to you. We don't use the outcomes rubrics. I won't worry about quizzes. You can find all your quizzes here. We don't recommend generally that you give students access to the quizzes link because you usually want them to find the quizzes in the modules. But you can do that. Oh, and also there's the assignments link, which shows all of the gradable items in the course, all of the assessments. Usually you want students to access these through the modules rather than through this tool. And you can control what students can see in this menu, and I'm going to show you that in a second once I get through with this. Is there anything else that really, not really. To control what students see in your course menu, you can go to your settings link, which you do need to know about. And under course details, you have some stuff about the course that you can, most of this you can't change. It's mainly informational. But there's a navigation tab here that you can use to govern what the students can see. If you don't want the students, say, to see this syllabus tool because you've loaded your syllabus into a module, you can just drag that down below the line here and the students no longer see that. Same with outcomes, rubrics, quizzes, conferences, collaborations, Google Drive. We don't use the attendance tool. The students can't see analytics anyway.
Can you say something about the Confer Zoom? Could you, I see it's on there. Could you say
Yeah,
a little
Confer Zoom is an interface that allows you to use Zoom with Canvas. It's optional.
Oh,
It's a convenience, not a requirement. But that allows you to start meetings and schedule meetings, manage your recordings and so on from within an app inside Canvas. There are some drawbacks to using that I talk about, and I'll talk more about that in a minute if you like.
please.
But
Yeah, after.
this is how, if you don't want the students to see the roster, you can remove that. Discussions, you're probably going to link to the modules. Pages, you're probably going to link to the modules. Files, you're going to link to the modules. So this is pretty much what you usually leave. And you can move these around so that they're reordered by clicking and dragging. That's usually, oh, and the assignments tool they don't need either. That's usually all the students need. And when you make those changes, you can save that. And now, if we go into student view, just as we did before by going to the home button and student view, then now it's a lot simpler over here. It's not as confusing. You don't want to have stuff in that course menu that the students see that you're not going to use, because they're going to wonder what it's about, and they're going to try clicking on it, and they're going to end up diving down a rabbit hole somewhere. Just give them the information they need. Okay. But you, of course, can still see everything. Okay. I think that's everything that you need to get started. So I'm going to stop right there. And now I'm going to go, I see I've got a number of questions in the chat tool. Thank you for putting them there. We've gotten some of them answered already, but I am going to go through these questions in the chat tool and answer them. And then I'll take general questions on anything. And I'll stay here as long as you have questions. The formal presentation, such as it was and what there was of it, is done. So you can award yourself the flex credit. Once the flex system comes back up, oh, that's another issue. Okay, question is, what's the difference between sending an announcement to all students, we were just talking about that, versus sending an email to all students via Canvas?
I think
The
you just
difference,
answered
the
it.
main difference is that where the students will see it. If you post an announcement, they'll see it under the announcements tool. If you can of course send an email or message to all of the students through the inbox tool without having to send them each individually a message. And they will see it in their inbox instead of in the course. So they both work, and one's about as easy as another. It's a little bit more likely if you use the inbox tool and send a message that that's going to get sent to the student's personal email, because that's the default setting in Canvas. But students can change that. They can go, as you can go, to their account button and go to notifications. And these are a bunch of course events that might trigger an email message to the student or to you. And the one for conversations, which is Canvas speak for the inbox for messaging tool. By default, the arrival of an inbox message in the Canvas inbox by default will send an email to the student at their personal email with the message in it, with the text of the message in it. And that's set on by default. Check mark is notify me right away by email, probably, or send me one email a day with all the notifications in it, or a weekly summary, or don't send me an email about this. And by default, the conversation message is turned on. That is, the student will get an email when you message them in Canvas using your inbox. They will also get an email in their personal email inbox. But they can turn that off just like you can. So that might not go through, but it's a little bit more likely that they'll get the message in their personal email if you send them an inbox message than it is if you post an announcement. So that's, but both are good. You might do both. There's no such thing. Somebody was asking me earlier today about, well, I don't want to over communicate with my students. There's no such thing. The more communication, the better. They may get tired of it, but they'll get over it. It's far more important that they get the information. The three most important things in an online course are communication, communication, and communication.
They know you're there.
Yeah, and that they know you're there and you're watching. Motivation is everything. So you can't over communicate. Yes.
When we post something in announcements, the students can only see it if they go to Canvas?
Unless they have an announcement
Linked to the email. Okay.
notification set.
Okay.
If they have this notification set, then they will get the announcement in their email.
Okay.
But you can't control that.
Is that the default choice?
no.
Is that the default
Yes,
choice?
it is the default.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
But funny, they learn how to change that. Pretty quick. So you just can't be sure they're getting and you can't be sure they're getting a conversation, an inbox message, but you know they're getting it in their Canvas inbox. You just can't be absolutely certain they're getting it in their personal email box, but the chances are about 80% that they are. So.
But Dave, if you want them to be able to respond to you from that email you sent, it's better to do an email, as I understand.
Yes,
not
it
an
is.
announcement. Okay.
Yeah, it is indeed. Better to use the inbox for that. Good point. Okay, let me see here. I've got a request to establish a shell. Just email me, and I'll be happy to create that for you. It's a shell for a particular purpose. That's fine. We can do that. By the way, my email is, I usually put that in the chat tool. I'm doing that right now. Gibberson at dgibberson@sdccd.edu. No N on the end. When I was hired, the district was in a budget crisis. They couldn't afford the extra letter. Okay, that's in the chat tool now.
And that's for the practice shell?
Yeah, no, practice shell for your training course, you should already have. That gets created automatically. This was for something else, I assume.
Great.
And I'll be happy to deal with that.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. Thanks for putting your names and your emails in here. I appreciate that. I will mention that there's now a way to get attendance in your Zoom meetings without doing that. If you're interested in that, ask me that question in a minute.
Oh, yes, I'm interested.
Oh, yes. Okay. Look, I'll consider that one asked. Okay. How does the instructor share some of the personal calendar content with students? If you post an event to the calendar, you can make that visible to everyone. And it will show up in your students' calendars as well. Most of the content in your calendar, though, is created automatically, or in the students' calendars is created automatically. Whenever you assign a due date to an assessment,
Yeah.
a calendar event will appear with that due date in the student's calendar.
That's right. Yeah, that was a
But
handy
you
feature.
can post an event in your calendar, and well, let me show that. I should do that. Sorry, it takes a second for the calendar to come up. There it is. If you add an event, let me get this chat box out of the way. If you add an event to your calendar,
Yeah, plus sign.
and set a date and time, location,
Mm-hmm.
you can specify if you want that to go to a particular shell
Okay.
and submit. And that will now be visible to anybody who's enrolled in that shell.
Yeah.
Okay. DDD guide. How can I correct my home page? Okay. I'm not sure exactly about the scope of that question, so I'm going to assume it's fairly wide. Let me go back to that course that we were creating, which did not have an opening page, a home page. By default, when your students enter a course that you've created, I have to find that one. I didn't publish that course yet, so there it is. By default, when they enter, they'll go to the modules, which is a good default because they can get to everything they need and they can just start working in the course. But if you want an opening page in the course, you can create one. You just go to the Pages tool in this case, which is where you can, that's another place you can create pages in Canvas in addition to the Modules tool. And you add a page, and you might call it something like Home Page, Opening Page, whatever. Doesn't matter what you call it. And you can type text. You can put in video or pictures, just like we did before. Pictures. That's a little banner image. Update. You can put links to your course modules. This is the kind of stuff we usually do in the content creation session. I can highlight that. I can go over here to my internal links tab in the content editor and say, I want this to go to my first module. That makes that a link to my modules. I can save that. Then I can view all pages to get a list of all the pages I've created. And I can go, I can publish that page so the students can see it. There's a context link here for the page that I can click on. And I can say use as front page.
Yeah.
Which will be my opening page. You get a little notation for that that reminds you that that's what the students will see first. You're not quite done with that process, though. You have to go to the home link and select choose home page from the task menu here. It's a two-step process. I don't know why they don't make it one. Don't ask me. Choose home page, and you tell Canvas that you want to use the page the Canvas page that you have designated as the front page instead of the course modules, which is the default. And you save that, and now when the students enter the class, they go to that page instead of directly to the modules. But you always want to provide on that page a link to the modules, at least, that will take them right to the modules, so they don't even have to know to go over here and click on the modules tool. And you really don't want the students to ever have to click on that course menu. You can put links to everything in the modules, and that's better practice. But that works either way. To edit, to change or correct your home page, all you have to do is go to it, click home here, and there'll be an edit button. Obviously, only you see that. Click that edit button. That opens up the rich content editor, and now you can add, you can correct your home page, you can add to it, make any changes needed, and then save them. So I hope I answered your question. And somebody gave that suggestion. That's good. When I click at it, it takes me to pages. I'm able to change the word. Right. How do you, I understand exactly what's happening. When you go to pages and you go to view all pages, you see a list of all your pages. And there's your front page, and I'm presuming you set that. But when you go out here to the right and you click on the little context menu for that page, you get an edit link. But if you click that edit link, all it allows you to do is change the name of the page. If you actually want to edit the content of this page, you have to go to the name of the page and click on that. And this is an instance where the Canvas interface is not so intuitive. How would you know to do that? Well, you just have to keep punching things until it pops up. But once you get here, you have an edit button that will allow you to actually edit the contents of that page. And that's one of the less well-designed parts of the Canvas user interface, I will admit. But hopefully that answered your question fully. Okay. Now I've lost my chat box. What do I do with that? Stuff appears and disappears. There we go. All right. Very good. Good question. How do I put our info into those modules? Well, I think we covered that. I hope so. Is there an easy way to search for and correct broken links? There is a course link validation tool. Let's see if I can remember where that is. I think it's in settings. Here we go. If you go to your settings link or settings button in your course menu, on your task menu on the right here, the last link is validate links in content. If you click that and start link validation, it may take a while if it's a big course, but eventually it will show you any invalid links. What it's doing is going out to each link. Oh, wasn't that nice? It didn't find any broken links. I probably should have broken one to illustrate that, but it will. Yes.
Do we need to be still recording?
Yeah, we're still recording.
Okay. Notice that was a two-part question. Validate links is, I understand, but the HTTPS. I don't like my students to leave secure. And a lot of the links in those courseware are just HTTP.
In other words, you don't want the links to be HTTPS links?
I want them to be S.
Oh, you want them to be?
Is there an easy way to find and change them all? In other words,
no, you can't. You can't change that. That's
well, actually,
the nature of the website.
but
That's
actually,
in the nature of the website.
the old days, remember before S came along, a lot of us were developing a lot of content.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so those are still available as HTTP, but almost everybody that had that has since upgraded that address to an S. That's in education.
Mm-hmm. The vast majority have, yes.
And I search for all the HTTP, and then I can validate my own self if there is an existence in S with that same content.
If there is, and a hyperlink is put in that's just HTTP, when the student visits the website, it will still be encrypted. It'll come up as HTTPS automatically.
When they
You don't have to worry about that.
You're going to a non-secure site, and it stops.
If it in fact is a non-secure site, they will be warned.
Right. And it stops it. But that same content is available at that same URL with an S in it. If you can find the extended content.
Yeah, but if the link that you put in, say, is HTTP :// link, and in fact that link has been updated to secure, when they go to that link, it will be secured. The fact that you have HTTP in there doesn't matter.
That has not been my experience, but okay.
I'm sorry, that has been mine.
We had that happen a couple of times recently.
Well, if the link at the other end hasn't been updated, there's nothing you can do about that, and they will be warned.
It'll warn them that they're leaving and going to a non.
Right, that they're, which just means that the traffic is not encrypted.
Hey, is there a reason why we don't have our fall shows?
My understanding was that you should have them by now.
Okay.
I'll have to go look. I haven't checked yet. Actually, I don't have any way to check that.
Remember, we had to request. In the old days, we had to request a show for the following.
No. They should have.
We don't have to do that anymore. No, they're not.
You don't have to request those shells anymore. A shell is made for every course section at the district.
Yeah, that's right.
Whether it's used or not.
So hopefully after the 20th, all this will magically be taken care of.
Actually, it should have been taken care of today.
As of now. And then
all fall shells were supposed to be created at like 2 a.m. today.
Okay. And I'm in Canvas right now. And then the last, this is a thing I sent you a couple of times, and I'm wondering if you've had any luck in changing it. In particular for English and math type graders who are writing on the actual submission. Yes? Who are writing on the submission when they're grading. Are you familiar with that, us doing that? You know we can do that, right?
You mean the markup tools and the speed grader?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous, correct? Okay, what happens though is that if you have a person that writes real small and you zoom and then write on that Zoom version, when it comes out, your explanation makes no sense because it doesn't unzoom. What you wrote stays gigantic on the minor page.
Yeah, that is a limitation on that tool. If you have to zoom it to read it, and you make those markups, then they don't line up.
But Dave, that is so easy for them to. I mean, that is just a short algorithm, that, and that's so helpful in grading.
You can, if you go to the help button, there's a link for submit a feature I did.
I did, I did, and I did it to you too.
And you can do that. We can't make Canvas do that, but you can submit that. You also might want to search there's an option to search here for similar suggestions, because they do this on a voting basis, and they do the, you know, they rank the updates that they're doing to the system by the number of people who have requested it. So if you try to find one that's similar and add to that, and add your request to that, it will help.
Yeah. Everybody knows it's very.
But at the very least, do submit it as a suggestion.
Okay.
And that's a really good point. And unfortunately for that particular item, that tool that you're using, the speed grader, is not something written by Instructure. It's written by a company called Box.
Oh.
And you would have to request it from Canvas, and then Canvas would have to request it from the change from Box. So you got another layer to go through there.
Right.
But it's still worth a try. And that's a very good point. Those don't line up. Those markup notations don't line up.
I could almost write the code myself. In other words, as that screen is zoomed up, that's a code.
Put that in there. Put that in there for them.
All right, Dave. You have a wonderful.
Another way, I will mention another workaround for that, though.
Good.
Instead of, when you go into the speed grader and you grade, let me pull this one little one little submission up that I did in this course, and go to the speed grader. Okay, that comes up on your screen, and let's say you needed to zoom this in to read it effectively. You can, at this point, as you're getting ready to grade this, you can use a tool like TechSmith Capture is just one instance, a screencasting tool that will allow you to record your screen as you're doing this. Hit Capture, tell it you want to record the full screen, tell it you want to capture a video. And this, by the way, is a completely, absolutely free tool. Make sure it can hear you, that you got the right microphone selected, and just hit record. Counts you down. Okay, now your screen and your voice are being recorded. So you can go and you can do these annotations. And the students can see it, or you can just talk about it for that matter. You don't even have to type them in. You can just highlight a portion of the screen you want to talk about and talk about it. Yeah, it's a digital video recording. That's right. If you find something wrong, you can highlight that. Like you can just come down here and say, well, wait a minute, where are your tools that I asked for? And I'm recording all of this. When I'm done recording, I'm done giving feedback, I can just stop that. This tool comes with some free storage space on something like YouTube called screencast.com. Once I've ascertained that it did,
okay, now your screen and your
record, I can just click one button. It gets uploaded.
But it's not automatically in their grade when they open it like it would be.
Well, it'll only be a second. Now I get this, the link to the media was copied to the clipboard. Okay, now all I have to do is go over here into the comment box and paste that in.
Comment box on their grade. Gotcha.
Right, in their grading, in the speed grader.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Thank you, Dave. That really helps.
You bet. And that way, they get better feedback, and it takes you less time because you can talk about it instead of having to type it all out. And that tool, TechSmith Capture, is free. If you can just Google TechSmith Capture and it'll come up. If you have any questions, just email me and I've got a tutorial on how to download and set that up. And that's something worth everybody seeing. Thanks for the question. Okay, so we got George. How to delete unwanted course content. You bet. If it's, I'm assuming here you have it in a module. Let me get back to the modules there in this course. Navigate, navigate. Here are my modules. If, say, I decided I didn't need this Zoom lecture or this, any of these things in the module, I can just go to the context menus that you have on the right side for each item within the module, and indeed for the module itself. These little 3 vertical dots indicate a context menu, and there's a remove button there. And I can just remove that from the module. If that's a file, it doesn't remove the file from the course. It just removes the link from the module. If you want to remove a file that you've uploaded to the course, you have to go to your Files link, which is your course file manager, and find the file that you don't want anymore. And there are context links or context menus for those as well. Just click on that and there's a delete button and you can get it out of your course. So if you upload a big file that you don't need anymore, you can go in and just delete it from your course file manager, so you don't, it's not taking up room in your course anymore. I hope that answered that question. What is a TED Talk? Good question. TED is a lecture series. Used to be very high-end. They'd meet in the World Hoi Polloi would meet in Switzerland once a year and give speeches about various topics of international import. Now there are TED meetings all over the world. It stands for Technology, Education, and something. I can't remember what the D is.
Design.
Design, right, thank you.
Welcome.
Technology, Education, and Design. And there's a website called TED.com. And there are thousands of recorded roughly 18-minute presentations by people who are world's experts in just about everything you can imagine, and probably quite a few things you can't. And everybody from Barack Obama to the Dalai Lama has done TED Talks. And you can just find a topic that you're interested in. It's searchable. And here are some possible suggestions, but they're just a tiny subset of the stuff that you find on TED. Like if you want to know something about chemistry, my subject, here are, a crash course in organic chemistry. I could have used that years ago when I was teaching organic chemistry. Boom. Click on that and you can play it. And you can link to it and have your students watch it. It's all publicly available. There's a share button that will give you the URL. That's HTTPS, George. Most of them are. And you can copy that to your clipboard and put that in as an external URL in your module, and your students can view it. So TED is a marvelous source for educational video. And they're short, they're very well rehearsed because it's very embarrassing to get up in front of the world and make a bad talk. So they're just amazing. And there's TED Talks on just about everything you can imagine. So that's a great resource. Good question. Why put your picture into the module? I think the students see your picture on the home page. Well, if you put it on the home page, yeah. But maybe you didn't. And it doesn't hurt to have your picture more than one place either. And of course, you also have a profile picture that will appear in some places, like when you grade something, your profile picture appears to the student. When you post to a discussion forum, your profile picture appears. So, but you can't have too many pictures of yourself in there because they want to know you're a person and not a robot. How do I get a photo from my desktop onto a page? Okay. Let's make a new page here just to have something to do. View all pages takes me to my list of pages and allows me to make a new page. I can also create a page from within a module, but I'm not going to add this one to a module, so I'll just make it here. I'll just call this sample page. I can type. And how would I get a picture in here if I had it stored on my desktop? Well, first off, let me check and see if I have any pictures on my desktop. If I don't, I'll put one there. These are all programs. Okay, just a second. This is outside the scope of this question, but let me just go to...
Dave, you don't have to answer it. Someone answered it privately if you want to.
Oh, good, good.
It's fine.
All right. Let me pull that back up then. But it's basically like it's just wherever else you might have, same process that I showed you earlier. You just look for it on your desktop instead of in a pictures folder or something somewhere. All right, let me pull up chat again. Will I have blind students in my class? You might. Will they be in a class that is visually demanding, like a drawing or a painting class? Probably not.
I have, Dave, this is Pamela here
Yes.
in ceramics, and I have had blind students in my classes as
It
well
can
as
happen.
blind
Yeah.
and deaf. Yeah, so it is possible. I have had it.
It's challenging, to say the least, yeah. Will you
I
show
was
us?
asking- I
Yes,
was asking that because audio is important if you have blind students, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Very.
well, if you don't have any, do you need to have audio all the time?
Or text. A blind student can read text using a program called a screen reader.
Okay.
So students can consume text or audio, but obviously they can't see a representation of the Mona Lisa, or they can't.
Well, they act like they
draw.
want you to describe it. Should be described, I guess.
Right.
All right.
And that's where that alt text comes in for your images.
Mhm.
You can add alt text to your image to describe it, but there's a limit to what you can do. You know,
Okay.
try to describe the Mona Lisa in 2 sentences or less.
Oh,
Okay, so that's a challenge, and it's a big debate about whether blind students should even be in that course. But
right.
that's neither here nor there. You had another question, Arth. Will you show us how to add a YouTube video without ads
Yeah.
to your
You showed me once before, but it was such a good idea.
Okay, you can do that to a certain extent. You
Okay.
can't get rid of all YouTube ads because some are embedded in the video and you can't avoid those. YouTube doesn't give you a way to. What you can stop are those pesky little advertisements that show around the video when the students go to YouTube. And you can also stop those annoying suggested videos that pop up when the student finishes the video or when they pause it. And they get, oh, you might want to watch this. And the next thing you know, the student's down a rabbit hole watching something about Hamilton or something like that and is not paying any attention to your content. Well, the way you avoid much of the distraction on YouTube is that instead of just, let me find a YouTube video here. I've got one up somewhere. That's not what I want. How about here? Let me just pull up a YouTube video that I created the other day. Okay, setting microphones. And now, one way to provide the link to this video to your students is to just go to the share button and copy this video link, and then go to your course and go to a module and add an external URL and paste that video link into it and name it, probably something more informative than that. With video, you generally want to load in a new tab and add the item. That's the simplest way to provide access to a YouTube video to your students. Then all you have to do is publish that, and the student can just click on that link, and they'll go, and when they allow a new window to open up, they'll go to YouTube, and there's the video. Setting microphones. It will probably start playing right away. But then all this other stuff pops up over here. Oh, that's more interesting. Most of this stuff's more interesting than me, quite frankly. So that's distracting. So how do you avoid that? Well, to avoid all this stuff, instead of just putting the video into the module as an external URL link, you can make a Canvas page instead. Make a new page. I'll call it the same thing, YouTube video. Add the item. But now I have to do something else. You notice I didn't put the URL in there yet. I go to YouTube video, to the page, and I edit the page. And instead of just linking the video in, if it's on YouTube, I can use this Insert Edit Media tool. And in the case of a YouTube video only, this will automatically produce what's called a video embed. So I just paste that video URL in here instead of in the external URL. Click OK, and you get an embed, which is just a fancy link. But if I save this and publish it, save this page and publish it, go back to the module where I created it, and make sure that's published so students can see it. Now, if a student clicks on this link, they don't go to YouTube, they go to a Canvas page, and they can play the video from right here. They don't see all this stuff around it. If they just play it from there, they just see the video.
Sensitivity in Windows.
They can even full screen it.
Do this
see
with
it
the
full
sound
screen.
control panel. Easiest way to get to that probably is to go to your search box in your taskbar at the bottom of the screen.
I don't know why that's a little fuzzy. So they don't get all that distraction, but they do see these nasty little suggested videos.
Oh, yeah.
So you can get rid of those as well, but it takes a little more doing. To do that, you have to do the embed in a slightly different way. I can click Edit here. And let me embed that video again, but do it differently. I can go to that, I have to start by going to that video on YouTube. There it is. And I click the share button to get information. But now instead of just copying this URL, I have to copy the what's called the embed code for that video, which is found under this little link here that's labeled embed. So I click that icon, and this is a bit of HTML code. You don't need to worry about how it works or anything, called an embed code. You copy that to your clipboard, and then you go back to Canvas and you use that same Insert Edit Media tool again, but instead of using the General tab, the simple one, you use the Embed tab. And you get a place to paste that embed code that you copied to your clipboard, which you can do with a right-click paste. And now, this will produce essentially the same result you got by using with YouTube by using the General tab. But this embed tab will work with sites other than YouTube as well that provide you with embed codes like TED and things like that. Will give you an embed code as well. But in the case of a YouTube video, if you want to avoid those suggested videos, you have to do a little editing of the embed code. Now things get freaky. And let's see if I can remember it right offhand. You go right, here's the URL, the link for the YouTube video, right there. It ends at that quotation mark right there. Let me blow this up a little bit. I can blow that up.
I just did.
Okay. There's the end of the URL. Let me think. I think it's, let me make sure I remember this correctly.
Oh, that's a question
Actually,
mark.
question mark REL equals 0. Yeah, that's it. And it is, as far as I know, it's still working, despite that post. You, right at the end of that URL, you type question mark REL equals 0. Just that.
Okay.
You have to type it exactly. And then click OK. Now, let me unzoom that. Now you get a second embed, but this one, if I play this one, setting microphone sensitivity in Windows.
You can do this.
Pause it. It doesn't pop up suggested videos. And if I go to the end and play, it just stops playing. It doesn't pop up those suggested videos. But you have to use the embed code and you have to edit the embed code to get that to happen.
All right. Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Very good. Hopefully that benefited everybody. I'll be honest, I don't always do that. It takes time. But it is a good thing to do, no doubt about it. Can you just copy paste the link to a Zoom recording directly into the page? Yeah, you can, but then it's not a clickable link. Let me illustrate that. Let's say you have a Zoom recording. You want to put a link to that in here. Unfortunately, Zoom doesn't provide you with an embed code, so you just have to use a link. But if I go to my Zoom recordings and I copy that shareable link like I did before and go back to my page, if I just paste that in and press enter, well, I'll be darned. Oh, they've updated that. That's great. That is a clickable link. So yeah, you could just paste that in and save it. And a student who then viewed that page could just access that Zoom video by clicking on that link. And there they go. And it automatically goes to a fresh page or a fresh tab.
Right.
That's nice. But that's ugly.
Wow.
So the better way to do it, I still have that on my course menu. I got to go to edit to change that. That's pretty ugly.
And I'm pretty sure there's no CC also on that one.
Yeah.
That version when you did that.
So a better way to do that is type something like link to Zoom recording. Sorry about the noise, folks. Somebody's mowing or weed eating their lawn outside the window. You can type that link or that text. You can highlight it, and you can use the link to URL or hyperlink tool in the rich content editor, and you can paste the URL in all its ugliness into there and click insert link, and now that's a hyperlink. If I save it, save the page, then the student can click on that and go to the Zoom recording, and that's a lot more informative. It works just as well. So, but just pasting the link in will work now. Can you, let's see, can I edit, Artist, edit what after it's been published?
I don't know. Whatever you were talking about at the time, I think that's what I was talking about.
Most anything can be edited after it's been published, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Including a test. That might have been the context. But you have to be careful about editing tests, because especially if it changes an answer, that can be problematic, obviously. And Canvas warns you if you try to edit a test and people have already taken it, and it asks you, what do you want to do? If you edited that question, you want to automatically regrade everybody, or do you want to just give people whatever, if they got it credit for it before, do you want to still give them credit for it because you made the mistake or whatever? You have some options.
Okay.
But there is some limitation to what you can edit in a test after students have begun taking it. For instance, you can't add a question after students have started taking it, because not everyone would have had a chance to answer that question. So they won't let you do that. So there are limitations there. Let's see. Not sure what that was about. It looks like it has something to do with how.
That was an answer to my question about. That was you already answered that. Yeah.
Oh, I did. Good. Thank you. And thanks, Brian. When a test is taken, does the instructor get a detail on how many missed and how many answered each question? Well, certainly the instructor can see the student's submission in the speed grader at any time and can see exactly what the student answered and didn't answer. There is also a test analytics. Oops, I didn't mean to close that. Let me go into a course which has some taken tests in it. That one does. If we go to quizzes, let's see. We can go to the quiz. Let me see. Let me pick one that's got a few submissions here. I think this one does. I can go to that quiz. Let me see. Actually, let me check and make sure I've got a quiz that's got some submissions here. Otherwise, this will not work. Go to the gradebook and let's see who's done what. Syllabus quiz. Okay, I've got some submissions for the syllabus quiz, so I can go to the syllabus quiz from the gradebook as well. And I can go to quiz statistics. And I can see things like average scores, high and low, standard deviation, and average time it took to take the quiz. I can see analytics on each question. How many people answered, what percentage of people answered it correctly. How many people answered it. And if I click, I can see who answered it. And I can see if enough people have answered it, I can get what's called the discrimination index. That gives me an idea of how well a single question is working. Let's see. And I can get a student analysis of the quiz.
Sorry.
And that's being generated. We may or may not have time to wait for that. And there's an item analysis that gives you more detail about each. Here we go. Here's my syllabus quiz student analysis report. I can save that. I can open it up. I think it's an Excel. Yeah, it's an Excel file. Just waiting on Excel to load here. I don't know where that went. Try that again. Report has been generated. Great. Let me download it again. There we go. Okay, there it is. So in Blackboard exports. So I have to go find it. There we go. Now Excel should start. Quite sure why that is not opening. It's a CSV file. It should open in Excel. Try it that way. I don't know why Excel is being difficult here. I'll give that a minute. Anyway, that's where you can find analytics on student and item, per student and per item, on what's happened in that quiz.
Okay, Dave, what I was really thinking is, you know, if they don't pass the test and they have to take it again, they get one more retry.
If you set it up that way, yes.
Yeah, they're just taking it fresh again, but the same test. But they don't necessarily know. Do they know what, you know, they're going to know what questions they missed, right? From when they took it the first time.
If you have provided that feedback to them.
Oh,
but you can choose not to do that.
Oh, okay. So if they take it again, they have to take it, you know, just fresh again, the same test.
From fresh, right.
Okay. All right.
For instance, if we go to a quiz here and edit it, this block of information right here
Can you zoom that or maybe it's me.
I can.
Oh, I'll make mine. I see. I have to make my screen.
I got it. Yeah. Okay, there you go. If you check this box let students see their quiz responses. Incorrect questions will be marked. If you check that, yes, they'll know what questions they missed, and they will see the questions. But you can uncheck that,
Oh,
and they
okay.
won't see anything. Also, you can choose whether or not to let students see correct answers and when. And you can have them see this feedback only once after each attempt. So they can't go back and look at it over and over again. But if you just don't want them to see, you can do that at all. If you're giving multiple attempts and you want them to be approaching each one fresh, you can uncheck that and they will not see it. They will not see that feedback.
All right, thanks.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All righty. All right, let's bring chat back up and see how we're doing. Oh boy, yeah, Pamela, a question about home internet access. Do you recommend a mesh system to go through wood lath and plaster walls and so on and repeat it throughout the house? Yeah, my house here is 3,300 square feet, and it's all on one level. It's like a raised ranch. So if I didn't, if I just had a one internet router access point at even in the middle of the house, I wouldn't be able to use Wi-Fi at either end of the house. So I very much recommend a mesh router system.
Yeah, I'm going with a 100-foot.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay.
Well, with a mesh system, you plug that wire into the master unit,
Right.
and then the other units communicate wirelessly with one another.
Right.
I don't know if I can. Yeah, I can probably show you this.
It's just that it has to go from one house to the garage. See.
Yeah, you'd want a mesh system, and if the house and the garage are close enough, you could put one of the units in the house near the garage, and then another unit in the garage.
It's over 100 feet. It's over 100 feet. It's over 100 feet.
Between the house and the garage?
Yeah.
That may be a stretch.
And they're on two different electrical systems, so I can't, because I understand that somebody can, okay.
You can do, right, internet, you can do internet connectivity over power line as well,
Right.
but if they're on separate wiring, that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
That's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
To get to 100 feet. You can try a Wi-Fi extender and put that in the house nearest to the, and then
I have a router. I actually have a router. It's AT&T.
Oh yeah, you'll have to have a router inside the house, but you can also put an extender.
Yeah.
That communicates with the router and then beams the signal to the garage.
And then it has a little receiver in the garage.
100 feet may be a stretch. It'd take a really good extender. And I don't know of one, but the mesh router system is an excellent idea.
Okay.
And it'd be worth a try. Certainly it'll work better, like in a 2-story house. You can have dead spots upstairs if you have your main router downstairs, and that can be really frustrating. A mesh system where there are 2 or 3 routers that communicate with one another wirelessly can really make that better. I don't have a dead spot in my house. I use Google Wi-Fi, but I don't think that's the best one now. I bought that 3 years ago.
And then I had
They're all fairly. Pardon?
Sorry, I had a couple other questions. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I had typed it in there, but about an hour ago. Let's see, what was it? One of them had to do with, it looks like my best option is to record my Zoom sessions to the cloud so that I will get the transcribing, then send that to YouTube so I can cut out the parts and make it into smaller videos, right? Because when I recorded to the local computer, I didn't get the transcription.
No, you wouldn't. But when you upload to YouTube, YouTube will normally transcribe it. But you had a situation where you had like 3 minutes of dead air at the beginning of the video, and YouTube if you
Yeah.
upload that to YouTube, YouTube ignores the
Right.
soundtrack.
Right.
Because it thinks there's no sound in the video, which
And other than
sometimes there isn't.
Camtasia, there's no way I could cut that part off, it seems like.
Yes, if you have a video editor like Camtasia,
I don't.
you could trim that off before you uploaded it to YouTube.
Because I
But
tried doing it in
Camtasia is
Zoom.
not cheap.
Zoom has some scissors, but I tried cutting the one in Zoom because they
Yeah.
have some scissors. But everything I tried to upload, then it didn't cut it off.
You can after the video is uploaded to Zoom, you
Yeah.
can trim the Zoom video, but if you then download the file from Zoom,
Yeah.
I don't think that trim.
No, I tried, yeah, okay.
Yeah, the trim doesn't survive because the trim is what's called non-destructive editing. It doesn't actually alter the file that was uploaded to Zoom. It just tells the playback interface not to use that first 3.5 minutes. So if you want to upload it to YouTube, now did Zoom capture it anyway?
Wait, say it again.
Did Zoom caption the video even with the 3.5 minutes of
Oh, yeah, great.
silence?
No, and I
Yeah,
edited all
Zoom
over.
is less picky about that than YouTube is.
You know, and I did
So
all
you
my
can't
editing.
just use the Zoom, but you'd really like that out of there, I know.
Well,
so,
what I really want to do is cut into smaller little sections.
And
I want to use YouTube as my
chunk it
editor.
up, too. And the only way to do that is to have an actual video editor on your computer.
Okay, so I really should get Camtasia then, right?
Well, there are some free ones that work quite well, but they tend to be very complicated.
I've edited before, 20, 30 years ago. Back on beta. So I mean, I've edited.
Try. I'll make a note here. I'll send you some links
Okay,
to some
good.
video editors that are completely free.
Okay.
And you can look at them and see if you're happy with them, if you feel like you could use them. If not, certainly Camtasia is a lot easier to use.
Yeah. Okay.
And but it's $170.
Yeah, that's all right.
So, but let me send you those links and see if you can try them and see what you like.
And then,
I have 2 or 3 that I know of. Mm-hmm.
And then the mouse. Can you recommend the mouse? Because I've been trying to edit using the touchpad of the laptop.
Oh God, no.
Yeah. So can you recommend a mouse to plug into my laptop or Chromebook? Please?
Yeah, any mouse, USB mouse should work.
Okay.
If you want one that's pretty high quality, a Logitech mouse will generally be pretty good, or a Microsoft mouse. Either one of those will be pretty good, and you can find those for not a whole lot of money on Amazon.
Okay, and then I have one more question, and that
Go right ahead.
I understand that I need to download all my cloud Zooms so that I can keep using them to do my captioning. Please tell me a good external drive that will plug into a tablet. I mean, not a tablet, a laptop.
Laptop. Well, any external, any USB drive should plug in.
But like, what size should I be getting, and what brand? And, you know,
I certainly wouldn't buy less than a terabyte at this point because they're pretty inexpensive. Less than $100 for a terabyte.
I think I saw them at Costco. Yeah, $60.
Oh yeah, Costco is a great place to get them, and they'll have a good price on them, and they'll be 2 or 3 terabytes probably for that price.
Okay, and any particular brand or?
The major brands are things like Seagate, Western Digital are 2 of the bigger drive manufacturers, but I've bought a lot of external drives over the years, and I've only had trouble with one, and I'm trying to remember what the name of that one was. Now, it's been so long.
They're just little boxes, right? They're like.
Yeah, they're just little boxes.
Yeah.
Here's one. Let's see.
And
That's
you,
one.
you
There,
use a
there are a
wire.
couple
Yeah,
of them sitting
yeah,
right
you
there.
just use a wire to plug them in, right?
Yeah, they come with a USB cable,
Mm-hmm.
and you just plug it into a USB port on your computer, and it shows up as a drive in your file manager, either Windows or Mac.
Yeah. Okay, so the big lesson I learned was when I'm starting my Zoom, rather than me get there early, students aren't there, start recording then, so that when they come in out of the waiting room, that they hear this thing's.
Yeah, you don't want to start the recording until
No,
you
I have
want
to wait.
the recording, right? And the danger, of course, is that you'll forget.
Yeah.
Ask me how I know that.
That too, yeah.
But if you want to avoid this problem, yeah, either you want to start the meeting right on time, or you want to wait and start the recording when you actually are ready to do it. And
yeah.
my standard, when you have the same students in there over and over again, or the same attendees, I just ask people, if you hear me starting and I haven't started recording, would you remind me? And that saved me many times.
Okay.
But yeah, you really don't want the recording right, unless you have an editor like Camtasia where you can easily chop it off.
Yeah. Well, I found the Zoom to be pretty okay to use. In a way,
Yeah,
think it was
the
easier
little
than
trimming
YouTube.
tool in Zoom is really easy to use, and in the Zoom Cloud, and it works quite nicely. And you can trim either end of the recording, but you can't chop it up into pieces and post them separately, like you
Right.
can if
That's
you have
what
an
I wanted
editor
to
and you put it on YouTube. And having shorter chunks is definitely good pedagogy.
Hey,
So.
do you think you could show us one little one? Because I did do some editing last night in YouTube, but I couldn't name it. I couldn't name the little chunk. I took out a little chunk, you know? I
Yeah,
just took
no, I don't have a way to do that either. That
Oh.
YouTube editor is so limited, it's
Oh.
really not worth fooling with. You can do trimming with it, but you can do that in Zoom. It doesn't really do much else.
So I can rename in Zoom the little chunks?
No. You need an actual editor. You need Camtasia or one of these other editors I'm going to send you the link to.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
To
Dave,
try.
did you go over how to do attendance in Zoom? Did I miss that?
Yes. How to get your attendance?
Yeah.
You bet. Thank you for reminding me. I was going to do that anyway. We'll get that in the recording. And I have done a tutorial on this that's in our on-demand site. Okay. Let's see. I need to go to my Zoom account. Here we go. And go back to my meetings link here. Anyway, this is where you are when you log into Zoom, your account on the Zoom website. To get that attendance, you go to reports. And I swear I never saw this before last week, so I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention to it. If you click reports, you have usage and meeting reports. You want usage. When you do that, you'll see a list of all your recent Zoom meetings in this time frame. Let me close that window. Sorry about that. Somebody running up and down the street with a leaf blower. There, that's better. Okay, so you see a list of your recent Zoom meetings, and you can control the time frame over which you can list up to a month at a time. So I can go back and get everything I've done in July through today and click search. And there are all my Zoom meetings in July. Some of these were I was just playing with Zoom, so I just started up and closed it right back down again and so on. And you can see under duration which meetings were just trivial. But if you go and, this is paged, so that's just the first page. To go to the next page, it's not real intuitive. You click that and you move forward. Okay, here was one I did on the 7th of July. It was 216 minutes in duration, so I know that's a real meeting and not just some where I started Zoom and shut it down again. And I had 54 attendees.
Okay.
Pretty good. And if I want to see who they were, that number, the 54, is a link. If I click on that, there are my participants.
Okay, great.
And I can export that, if I like, as a CSV file, which opens in Excel. And I can save that so that I have a record. If people have entered their email as they entered the meeting, which they can optionally do, I get their emails as well. But at least I'll get their name, the name that they used when they entered the meeting.
Great, thank you. That's really useful.
Yeah, I found that very useful myself. And I can't believe I didn't know that was there. I'm not sure when that became available, but it is available now and it seems to work like a shot. Uh-huh.
And does that happen automatically?
Well, the data are collected automatically, yes. It's up to you whether you go in and view it, of course, but the data are there. You don't have to ask for it to take attendance. It does that automatically.
No, I mean, getting this report, getting the information. Do you have to save to your cloud?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I'm having trouble understanding you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Do you have to download it to your cloud to get this information, or does it automatically save this information to your report?
No, it's saved there, as far as I know, indefinitely. I don't know. They may purge it after a certain time. I just don't know. But for sure, it's there for the last month or two anyway. And you can go back and look at it at any time.
Thank you.
And Dave?
But the safe thing to do might be to save it. Yes, Ken?
Dave, I think you've made the point that students should avoid using cutesy names. They should use their real name.
That would be nice. Cutesy I can sort of live with. Obscene is something else. So, and of course you can see if they do that. You can throw them out. If somebody resists your advice to change their name, you can, I don't mean to pick on Nikki, sorry. But you can rename them yourself if you have to, or if it gets bad enough, you can remove them from the meeting. And if you remove them from the meeting, they can't get back in, at least not during that session.
Right. Oh, it wasn't so much about that. It was more about attendance, right? Making sure that you're getting accurate names for your attendance.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Dave,
So
this
you can
is Fanny.
Hey,
Sorry.
Fanny.
Hi. So you went to your Zoom homepage, and then from there you go to resources?
Reports.
Where is that at? On the top? I mean, at the very top?
No, it's right here. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's to log in, when you go to zoom.us, or conferzoom.us, which is the
Yeah.
same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you sign in. You get this menu over here on the left, and here are your reports.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
And then you choose usage. And then you set the time frame over which you want to look at your meetings, up to a month in duration. But that doesn't mean it's just the last month. I can go back to like Zoom meetings I did in March and do March 1st to March 31st and search, and it'll show me all those meetings. We had some obscenely large meetings around that time. 161 attendees, and there they all are. And I can export that. So that was a real revelation to me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Saved me a lot of trouble because I have to report numbers to my supervisor. Okay. Some great questions. How about some more?
Oh, Dave, can I ask
So
about?
Dave, I just
Whoops. I think Ken got in just a hair before, but Donna, we'll get you next.
Just quickly, I thought the fall Canvas shells were supposed to be stable today. Now, I am a scheduler. I know that people's schedules can change, but would you still recommend people using development shells?
Yes.
Yeah. As a scheduler, I might agree because people's schedules might change.
That's right. And, you know, as the department may have messed up on a CRN, they may have to change the CRN of the section.
Mm-hmm.
And if that happens, the existing live shell is blitzed and a new one is created. That's empty.
Does that happen mostly when there is a schedule change specifically?
Yes, that's when it mainly happens.
Oh, thank you. That's important for me as a scheduler.
We've seen it happen for other reasons as well. So we really just recommend that you stick with work on the development shell, and I would wait till about a week before the beginning of the term. Then I'd copy my content over.
Okay,
there are usually not that many schedule changes in that last week before the beginning of the term, as you well know.
I think
you know more about that than I do.
I think a lot of the fall shells were available early on, and we were told, no, they're unstable. And we thought today was like the magic day.
Right. That was a mistake on somebody's part in our department, who will remain nameless, who uploaded stuff not meaning to. They meant to upload it to a test system, and they uploaded it to the production system by accident. So that was a mistake on our part. And they just didn't want that. So they eventually figured out a way to pull all those out. And now, but the ones that are there, hopefully today, I haven't checked yet, but they were supposed to appear at 2 a.m. today. The ones that are there now are fine. But if there's a schedule change, as you say, somebody who developed that live shell could lose that work. Actually, they wouldn't lose it. We can get it back, but it takes some doing, and we don't want to have to do it 100 times. So we really recommend that people work in the development shell until about a week before the beginning of the term.
Right, thank you. And you said there were other reasons besides schedule changes also, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there have been things where there have been some exciting events in PeopleSoft that were unanticipated that blitzed the shells. And it's just unwise to work in that live shell until it's about a week before the beginning of the term.
Oh, thank you very much, Dave.
There's really not much of a downside to it, because as you saw, the copy process takes you about 30 seconds after you've done it once. And then everything comes over. And we're even putting development shells now into the sub-accounts in Canvas that correspond to your college or your continuing education site, so that if you have to set up like your My Math Lab or My Whatever Lab things and so on, you can set that up in advance in your development shell and it'll copy over and things like that. So it's safer now to use the development shell for that.
Well, thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you for your perspective on that.
And so how do you get, Dave, how do you get the
Your
development?
turn.
Thank you
Yes,
so much, Dave. I'm sure you answered this, but how do I get a development shell? Who do I
To get
contact?
a development shell, go to the help button in Canvas.
Okay.
And find the faculty Canvas support hotline. And there's the number. You can just jot that number down. 844-612-7422 is the faculty support number. Just call that number and say, I want a development shell. Here's who I am. This is they'll ask you some questions to validate that you're an instructor at the San Diego Community College District. And then you can say, well, I teach this course, English 101, whatever. And I'd like a development shell for that. And here's my login name and so on. And they'll look you up. And I think they make them right there while you're online or while you're on the phone.
Awesome.
And you can have as many as you want. Some people like get multiple development shells for the same course. Like if they teach it in a 16-week and an 8-week format, they get a development shell for each, so they can set up their modules differently and so on. It's up to you. But anyway, there's no problem with getting the development shell you need at any time. And our wait times, our average wait time on those calls is down under 4 minutes now. Actually, it was under 3 minutes the other day. So they're catching up on that. The people are not as frantic anymore and so on, with everybody in the world going online within a 2-week period and things like that. I think wait times got pretty extreme on those support hotlines for a time, but they're back to much more normal circumstances. And you can also request it through the chat. We just got this capability like last week. There's a chat tool that you can use, and you can request your things, your shells that way, and that may be even more responsive. If you find yourself waiting on hold for a while, you could try that instead.
Great, thank you, Dave. Very helpful.
You bet. How about something else? Great questions today. Most of which I could answer anyway. Everybody happy? Well,
sure.
Oh, we're all happy. You're always welcome to email me. I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. I love to hear from you. I'll be back online again. Let me see when the next one is. Go to my calendar here. Next one is.
Dave, and thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Next one is orientation on the 21st. Next Tuesday is orientation to the online faculty certification program. Then on the 23rd, Thursday, accessibility for students with disabilities in your Canvas course. And then we go on from there. We're going to have a couple of these a week. We have a couple of these a week scheduled almost every week between now and the end of December. And then we'll schedule again. That's just as far out as we've scheduled at this point. And Mary is sending out those schedules every Monday for that week and for the next week, and sometimes more often. So hopefully you'll always be able to find anything you need. But if you have any questions, just email me. Anything else? All right. Well, thanks so much for coming today. It's been a great session. I enjoyed it. And I hope to see you again soon.
Okay.
Stay safe.
Thank
Be
Thank you.
careful
Have
out
a good
there.
day, folks.
you. Bye-bye.